How's it going, folks? Welcome to another fun at-home table read. Tonight, we are jumping into the most recent Edgar Wright film, Last Night in Soho. He's kind of teased with a horror movie for years, and this was pretty cool to see. So I'm very excited to see how the script goes for this one. So let's just jump right into intros.
Hello, Mary. I'll be doing action description.
I am Jen, and I'm Eloise.
I'm Erik. I'll be John.
I'm Nicole. I'll be Jocasta.
Hi, I'm Anne. I'll be Sandie.
Angi, I'll be Ms. Collins.
I'm Logan. I'll be Jack.
I'm Travis, and I'm playing silver-haired gentleman.
All right. Well, Mary, take us away.
Last Night in Soho, screenplay by Edgar Wright and Christy Wilson Carnes, story by Edgar Wright. Interior, black space unknown. Music plays A World Without Love by Peter and Gordon. A long, dark hallway, lit but at the far end by an open door. A silhouette appears in the doorway, the outline of a woman, stylish and dressed in a beautiful gown. She struts down the dark corridor, dress flowing. She dances, carving shapes in the light, the embodiment of cool, class, and elegance. She hits a switch. Interior upstairs hallway day. The hallway floods with light. Jarringly, we find ourselves not in some nightclub, but in the upstairs hallway of a cozy home, adorned with pictures and photos that suggest the domicile of a much older person. The dancer is Eloise Turner, 18, way messier than her silhouette suggested, hair in a rough bun. The beautiful dress is actually made of newspaper, a dressmaking pattern, expertly cut and pinned. Eloise continues to dance down the hallway. Her moves are quirky, weird, and more than a little awkward. She's dancing for herself, lost in her own world. She shimmies down the chintzy hallway right into interior Eloise's bedroom continuous, a shrine to the 60s. A portable record player blasts music across the half bedroom, half fashion workroom. Eloise is wholly golightly redux as she takes the straw out of the can of a Coke and uses it as a cigarette holder. She vamps around the room, which is covered in panorama art and icons from the 60s. She winks at a poster of Twiggy before dancing around a dressmaker's mannequin. She lifts it and spins, attempting a waltz. As she dances, we see framed photos on her bedside table. Eloise's mother and grandmother, Peggy, in mid-90s London, posing outside the Criterion restaurant. Eloise, her mother, and Peggy in the mid-2000s London, outside of Liberties. Eloise and Peggy in 2017 in a rural hamlet. Her mother is absent. Beside the frames is a shrine to London, a little dinky red phone box, a toy black cab, a tiny Carnaby Street sign. Eloise dips the mannequin and then puts her head where it should be. She imitates a male voice.
Beautiful gown, darling.
Eloise leans back bashfully.
Thank you. Fabulous. Who are you wearing? Eloise Turner.
Eloise waltzes away from the mannequin and over to a rail of clothes. She pulls back a 1960s silk scarf from the rail and shimmies over to a full-length bedroom mirror. In her mind, the paparazzi, along with a red carpet. Behind the rail, she strikes a fierce pose in a dress.
Who are you wearing? Eloise T, of course.
Nope, she strikes another pose.
E.T.
Wait, isn't that an alien? Big nope. She shakes her head.
Ellie Turner.
Yes, that's the one. She wraps the scarf around her head like she's in a 1960s film star. Burdott, eat your heart out. She spins and flicks the scarf through the air. It knocks one of the photo frames off her bedside table and onto the floor, the one of her mother, and grandmother. As she kneels down to retrieve it, her large dress knocks the record player. Bump. The record skips. Repeats. Ellie traces down to grab it and looks at it for a beat. Her finger traces the image of her mother. She stands to place the frame back on its bedside table. As she does, her eyes catch in the mirror a figure behind her hovering in the doorway. A smile creeps across her face and she turns to see her mother, looking as she does in the photo, far too young to have an 18-year-old daughter. She smiles back at Ellie, warm, dripping with love. Ellie matches it.
It's good news, isn't it?
Her mother nods. Then, from downstairs, we hear an older voice shout.
Eloise, post!
Ellie looks around excitedly upon hearing this. She then dashes to the record player and takes the stylus off.
Ellie!
When she heads through the door, her mother has vanished.
Coming!
Interior downstairs hallway moments later. Ellie bounds down the stairs. She stops on the landing to see her grandmother, Peggy, 70s, holding up an envelope. Ellie takes the last few stairs 2 at a time and grabs the letter. She holds it for a second. London College of Fashion. It's printed on the outside. She takes a breath, trying to calm her nerves. She opens the envelope. Peggy watches anxiously as Ellie reads.
Well, what does it say?
I'm going to London!
I knew you would be.
I'm going to London! I'm going to London!
Ellie screams and bounces around excitedly, too wrapped up in her own joy to catch the flicker of worry on Peggy's face. Interior Ellie's bedroom, another evening, total disarray. A huge case is open. Ellie is filling it with her vinyl records. Peggy watches her pack concerned.
You sure I can take all of these?
I got you hooked on them. I couldn't deprive you now.
Peggy peers in the suitcase filled with vinyl.
Do you have enough space? Don't you need socks?
Socks.
Ellie gets up and heads to the chest of drawers. Peggy turns to take a picture frame from the bedside table. Ellie's mother and Peggy in the late 70s. They pose outside the Criterion restaurant of Piccadilly Circus. Peggy stares at the photo. It's something very precious.
This was one of the first times your mum and me went to London. God, the shops. We used to go and look at all the clothes. Liberty's, Selfridge's, Carnaby Street. She'd try everything on. The snooty shop girls knew we couldn't afford them. They didn't know we could copy them.
Peggy holds the photo out to Ellie.
Take it.
Ellie looks at the photo, then sighs.
I can't, Gran.
Ellie smiles but shakes her head.
Bring her up when I'm settled. We can have dinner at the Criterion, like in the photo.
Oh, we didn't eat there. Couldn't afford to. We just took a picture outside. Then we went to a Wimpy.
When I'm a big-time fashion designer, we'll go. Deal?
I don't think Wimpy still exists.
You know what I mean.
Ellie continues to pack. Peggy looks at the picture still in her hand, joy mixed with sadness.
I understand how much you want this. It was her dream too, but it's not everything you imagine, London. You have to watch yourself.
I know.
I want to say it anyway.
There are lots of bad guys.
You have to be careful. There are lots of bad people. Bad apples.
She grabs scissors and brandishes them at Peggy with a grin.
I'm scrappy. I can take them.
Ellie smirks and resumes packing. Peggy is still worried.
I'm just saying London can be a lot. It was too much for your mum, perhaps, and she didn't have your gift.
My gift.
She didn't feel things, see things like you. I worry you'll get all overwhelmed again.
Ellie's packing stops. She turns to Peggy, quiet but firm.
It's not just that I need to do this for me. I want to. For her. Maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe up there I won't be reminded of her so much.
Okay.
Ellie can't look at Peggy. She goes back to packing.
Besides, I haven't even seen Mum in ages.
Well, that's a lie. In the corner of her frame lurks the bedroom mirror, empty. Interior Ellie's bedroom morning. Beep, beep, beep. Ellie hits off her alarm clock, unplugs it, wraps the cord, and shoves it into her suitcase. Ellie's room has been pillages of everything she needs for London. Her stuff is stacked by the door. She runs her hands along the wall of the bedroom, a sober moment. As she turns, she catches sight of a figure in the mirror, her mum, sitting on the edge of the bed, looking back at Ellie, a mixture of hope and fear in her eyes.
Bye, Mom. Bye.
Ellie closes the door and leaves. Exterior Peggy's house the next day, a pretty cottage in a rural street. A minicab idles by in the garden gate.
Nicole,
You know I will.
and if it all gets too much in there, you'll tell me.
In the city?
Peggy shakes her head and taps Ellie's head.
In here. Don't bottle it up. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to me. Okay.
Ellie nods and smiles.
I love you.
Ellie kisses her on the cheek and they break apart. Ellie moves to the minicab, leaving Peggy alone by the gate.
Ellie?
Peggy goes after her and puts something in her hand. The 1970s photo of Ellie's mother and Peggy.
I want us both to be there.
Ellie takes it and kisses her grandmother on the cheek.
I won't let you guys down.
You never could.
Ellie slips into the back of the taxi. She looks at the photo in her hand and turns to look out the rear window. As the taxi draws away, Peggy is no longer standing alone. Ellie's mother is next to her. Ellie smiles at them and waves. Peggy smiles and waves back. It's difficult for Eloise to see the expression on her mother's face as the taxi drives away, but before the car disappears around the corner, Eloise can tell that her mother is neither smiling nor waving. Then they are gone. Interior train day. Song Don't Throw Your Love Away by the Searchers. The English countryside speeds by the window, bathed in glorious sunshine. Pastoral, idyllic, and to Ellie, really boring. She watches it all fall away. Womp. A tunnel. The train plunges into blackness. When it exits the darkness, the carriage is suddenly full of people. Urban cityscape rattle by. Interior Paddington Station, concourse evening, rush hour, unbelievably busy, clamorous sounds. During this sequence, we focus only on a wide-eyed Ellie, the frantic melee of the city filling the corners of the frame. She drags her heavy cases, commuters cutting through her path, buffeted off her course. Interior taxi rank evening. Ellie slips inside a hackney carriage at the front of a long line of gleaming black taxis. The taxi driver, 60s, heaves her cases into the front and slides back into the driver's seat. He doesn't turn around, so we only see slices of his face in the rearview mirror. She catches a warm grin on his lips.
Charlotte Street, please.
My pleasure, darling.
Ooh. Interior, central London streets evening. Ellie beams with joy. Her eyes dance in the glittering lights of Piccadilly. Her gaze sticks for a second on the exterior of the Criterion restaurant. She smiles, filling with warmth.
First time?
I visited once with my mom, but I was small. It looks so different now.
It changes fast, all right, but don't worry, it's still the same old London underneath.
Oh, good.
What's brought you down then?
I'm studying the London College of Fashion.
Ah, so you're a model.
Travis, you're creeping me out.
Sorry.
She catches his eye in the rearview mirror. They're taking her in. Ellie shifts a little, uncomfortable.
Oh, no. I design clothes. Well, I want to. I mean, I want to be a designer.
But you could be a model. You got the legs for it. I'm a leg man myself.
Ellie moves her legs behind her bags, says nothing.
So what's on Charlotte Street?
It's, student housing.
So it's all girls in the building? If all the supermodels are in Charlotte Street, you'll be seeing me around, and no mistakes. You might have found your first stalker.
His eyes lock on hers in the rear view. Ellie's eyes look away and stick to the meter, 1920 and rising.
I'll get out here.
Still another couple of streets to go, love.
I've not got enough cash.
I'm sure we could sort something out, sweetheart. Plus, it's not good round here at night for young girls.
I want to go to the shop anyway.
Please yourself.
The driver grumbles and pulls over. Ellie hands over 20 pounds. Peggy gave her.
Thanks.
She drags her bags in the street. The taxi driver's eyes follow her as she ducks into the shop. Interior corner shop evening. Ellie wheels her cases inside and watches through the door as the taxi idles. Panic begins to creep on her face.
Can anyone help me? I'd like to just buy a can of Coke.
Hello, can I help you?
Thank you.
The shop owner impatiently waits for her to buy something. Ellie picks up a can of Coke and pays for it. She moves to the window, the taxi gone. Thank goodness. Ellie breathes a sigh of relief. Exterior Charlotte Street, Student Halls night, a foreboding brutalist building stark against the period townhouses around it. Ellie drags her cases, exhausted from the effort, up ahead. A young black man, John Drum, 18, handsome if a little awkward. He's standing by the door eating an apple. Ellie passes him and heaves her cases up the stairs. John moves towards her, mouth full of apple.
Oh, you want a hand?
No, I'm okay.
The case slips down a step, knocking off balance.
You don't look okay.
Well, I am.
Ellie moves quickly inside the building, away from John. Interior halls, corridor night, strip lighting and blue linoleum floors. This place just looks like it smells of bleach. Ellie, sweaty and frazzled, batters her case up. Her cases off her shins as she struggles along. A head pops out from one of the doors. It belongs to Jocasta, 19, tall and slender, imposingly beautiful, acting cool. She speaks at 200 miles per hour and rarely smiles. She's overdressed in a black designer couture, but has the attitude to pull it off.
You Eloise?
Yeah.
You look like an Eloise.
Well, Ellie.
Jocasta backs away into the doorway and points to a printed sheet pinned to the door. Jocasta Thompson and Eloise Turner. Jocasta's surname is crossed out with a black marker.
I'm Jocasta.
Did they spell your surname wrong or something?
No, I decided to drop it because I think it's more singular to be known only by your Christian name. So famous, in fact, that your work can literally just go by Kylie
Minogue?
Jenner. Okay, bad example, but how many Jocastas do you know?
None.
Exactly, babes.
Jocasta holds open the door and Ellie heads into interior dorm bedroom night, a room far too small for two people. This place is tiny, dank. The windows look out into a brick wall. Ellie enters, trying very hard not to look disheartened. Jocasta's stuff is strewn across the prime bed, the one that doesn't get battered every time the door opens.
If we don't end up throwing each other, maybe we'll talk about switching next time.
Oh. Well, I don't mind that you took the prime bed anyway. It's fine. Sorry.
Jocasta pours red wine into a glass and thrusts into Ellie's hand as she's taking off her coat.
Oh, I might have said that word already.
Sure did.
Oh.
She smiles at Ellie. It's disarmingly charming.
So where are you from?
Redruth?
Jocasta looks at Ellie, lost.
I'm sorry.
You know, Cornwall in the countryside?
I heard you, babes. I'm just sorry.
What about you?
Manchester. But I spent my gap year down here listening to interning at in Seville Row.
Ellie
Sorry.
stares at Jocasta, totally intimidated.
Wow, I've just been in Redruth making my own clothes.
I had a hunch you made that. This is a bourgeois noir before she sold out and moved to Land and Smoke.
No. Is it allowed in here?
Jocasta leans in, smiles conspiratorially.
I took the batteries out of the alarm. I guess I can go outside if you really have a problem with it.
No, it's fine.
I tried vaping. I think that just makes you so much more of a cunt.
Yeah, totally.
Jocasta blows smoke towards the window. Her eyes land on Ellie's untouched wine. Ellie feels her glare and sips some.
What does your dad do?
I don't know him.
What about your mom?
My mother's dead.
I think we finally have some common ground eventually. I was only 15 when she died. You?
7.
Wow, that is young. Well, I guess maybe it's easier at that age. Not a competition though, is it?
Ellie looks at Jocasta. It isn't. Sound filter in from the corridor outside. More arrivals.
Oh, fresh blood!
Jocasta rushes for them. Ellie is alone in the room, lost. Interior student hall's kitchen night. Ellie peers into the kitchen to see Jocasta holding court. Jocasta already has the 3 other students in orbit around her. All of them are overdressed, modern silhouettes in black, very high fashion. They are Cami, 22, Ashley, 19, Lara, 18.
Is that a bloody bush for a drawer?
Did I? It's from before she sold out and moved to London, obviously.
Laughter canters around the group.
This is my roomie, Eloise.
The crowd turns to her, sizing her up.
She literally made the outfit she's wearing. How amazing is that? All of us turn on in our Sunday best and she's rocking her own design. I'm thinking we should call her Breast Balls Ellie.
More laughter, but Ellie isn't sure if it's at her expense.
What are we going to call you? By tomorrow morning, you shall know me as Hurricane Jocasta.
So you guys know each other from before?
Oh, we go way back. What is it now? 15 minutes?
Something like that.
We're in Dead Mums Club.
The room is suddenly awkward.
Fuck leukemia, am I right?
That is awful.
It's pretty shit, not gonna lie, but I really feel it fuels my work. What happened to your mum?
Ellie looks at the others. She flushes a little.
Well, my mom wasn't well mentally. She killed herself.
Silence. Everyone's faces have flooded with empathy except Jocasta, who inexplicably looks pissed off.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked.
It was a long time ago.
You are like so brave.
So brave. Christ.
Yeah, I had a great uncle commit suicide. Hung himself, so I know exactly what it's like.
Ellie, trying to get out of the conversation, opens the fridge to put her can of Coke in it. Inside is a mini Whole Foods Emporium, all with Jocasta's monogrammed across them.
First rodeo, Els. Gotta mark your territory, babes.
Jocasta grabs a Sharpie from the counter, writes the name Ellie on the Coke, and puts it inside. Ellie watches with trepidation as Jocasta grabs a bottle of Jägermeister.
Time to break out the big guns. Let's really get on this bitch.
Jocasta pours 5 shots of Jaeger into some mugs. Do we really want to be all hungover in our first day?
Hush. That's future Cami talking. And, fuck her. We have to live in the now. So, pose.
Jocasta downs her and gestures to the others to do the same.
To Soho.
They all toast to Soho. Ellie late and quietly. Exterior Soho Street tonight. The group of freshers walk down a busy Soho street. Ellie's lagging a little behind. They approach the Toucan. Interior, the Toucan night. Music, if you can call it that, blares. Some awful Irish folk come techno. Very loud, utterly unbearable. Ellie is in the packed Irish bar. It's teeming with freshers and some angry regulars. Despite the ear-bleeding music, Jocasta's still talking, queen of the freshers.
I dated an Irish guy twice. The same guy, but 2 times. And he was Irish.
We focus on Ellie watching from the sidelines, bored and a little horrified that these are the people she's living with. Across the bar, a guy catches her eye. John, the weird apple eater from outside the halls. He smiles, mimes, "You want a drink?" She shakes her head, shows she already has one. A drunk bro leans over to Jocasta and whispers in her ear.
I can't hear you, babes. It's gonna be a no from me.
Drunk bro?
Play drunk arsehole, but I
Hey,
don't know if that's...
my dick just died. Can I bury
It's
it
my
in your
favorite
arms?
line, y'all. Come on.
Anyway, with that inappropriate line, Jocasta pushes him away.
No, absolutely not.
I agree. Jocasta turns and points to Ellie.
Try that line on Ellie. I bet she's complete filth once you get a few shots inside of her.
Rude. Everyone laughs. The bro grins at Ellie, but she escapes too. Interior Toucan basement continuous. Ellie walks down the steps into the less crowded basement bar. She spots the sign for the ladies and heads towards it. Ellie's eyes glance to the mirror next to the door. Just behind her is a leering man, mid-30s, a little off. Ellie can clearly see in the mirror that he is staring at her. There's something weird about him. He's dressed as if he's from the time 50 years ago. Ellie turns to look at him. He's not there. She just spots the regulars and the Irish barmaid, Carol. Ellie is a little rattled. She heads to the bathroom. Interior two-can bathroom stall. Moments later, Ellie hides in the stall, savoring the moment of being alone. A notice catches her eyes. Hates drunk people? Be a bartender. Staff wanted. After a beat, she hears the door swing open.
It's just a bit shit.
Ellie listens as they head into the stall next to her. We hear unmistakable sniffing in between their lines.
I think she's a real cold beige. I'm getting born again Christian vibes off her.
Who? Country Mouse? Ellie looks at the door of the stall, her heart sinking.
She comes to the first day at LCF wearing clothes she made. Fuck's sake.
They cackle.
That was a bit much. And then she kept bringing up her mom's suicide. Who uses that for attention? Yeah, that is a little weird. She's a lot fucking weird. I'd lay bets on her slashing a wrist before Christmas.
We hear astonished gasps and cackles, then they leave. Ellie stays in the stall, angry, hurt. Scene 19 omitted. Exterior, Dean Street, Soho night. Soho is heaving with people, loud and brassy.
Come on, we got another 3 pubs to hit before the club's open.
Ellie lags behind. She passes a dirty phone box. Taped inside the glass are flyer cards advertising prostitutes. One card reads, "Every man's dream belonged." Then through the glass, across the street from her, we spot an open doorway. A figure darkens it. A tall man. He too looks like he's in fashion from 50 years ago, as he's dressed in a bowler hat and a 3-piece suit. Above him, a handwritten sign on the door says, "Models." Ellie peers around the phone box to get a better look. The figure is gone. Ellie blinks. The neon arrow points up the stairs. Ellie peers in, intrigued. The other freshers are getting farther and farther away. Ellie is still looking at the door. Feet appear at the stairs, and a silver-haired gentleman descends. He is in his 70s. His clothes are old but expensive. His pale hair catches the neon light. He stands at the bottom of the stairs and writes his clothes. Ellie stares at him. He locks eyes with her. He has a striking, gaunt face. She looks down, but he stares on. When her eyes flick back to him, he winks at her, then heads off, carving a path through the crowds like someone who was once important. Ellie turns back to the freshers, spots them on the next block. She could run to catch up with them. She could, but she doesn't. Ellie turns and heads away from them, bumped and buffeted into the drunken crowd. Song Starstruck by the Kinks. Over Ellie walking away at a brisk pace, we hear the sounds of the 60s in the London she dreams it still was.
Baby, you don't know what you're saying because you're a victim of bright city lights.
Interior dorm bedroom night. Ellie is in bed listening to her headphones, lost in her own world. For the first time in London, she looks comfortable.
'Cause you're starstruck, baby, starstruck, taken in by the lights.
Bam! The door swings open, smashes into the bottom of the bed frame. Light from the hallway spills in the room as Jocasta and the bro careen in, making out, hands all over each other. Ellie sits up in bed to remind Jocasta that she's still in here. Jocasta doesn't notice, or more accurately, doesn't give a fuck. She pushes bro onto her bed, rips off her top. Interior student halls, kitchen night, pandemonium. A party is in full swing. 15 odd freshers, all blind drunk and withering on. John is amongst them, sipping on a can of Coke. Ellie enters, wrapped in her duvet, headphones still on. She finds a spot on the couch and sits, her eyes closed, the music carrying her away when someone pulls out her headphones. She opens her eyes to see some drunk arsehole a foot from her face, holding her earbuds. He grins.
Drunk arsehole. Travis.
Hey, what are you listening to?
Well, nothing now.
The arsehole puts the buds in his ear. Ellie stares daggers at him. He grins, changed to confused disgust.
You actually listen to this granny shite? How old are you?
You can fucking talk. Did you put that Techno Riverdance shit on the toucan?
Drunk arsehole's face crinkles with embarrassment. He gives the headphones back to Ellie and John moves over next to her.
I'm paying attention to him. I'm John, by the way.
Ellie.
He smiles, then some cog turns in his brain. He looks to the can of Coke he's holding. Ellie is written on the side.
Shit. This is your can, isn't it? Sorry.
He moves to hand it back to her.
Have it.
Ellie puts her headphones back in. John stands there for an awkward beat before returning to the others. She turns her music up, drowns them out. She sinks on the sofa, neck drooping at an uncomfortable angle. Her eyes close. Interior student hall kitchen morning. Ellie is asleep in the same position. She wakes with a start. Nobody else is here. Checks the time on her phone. Fuck. Exterior London College of Fashion Day. Rush hour. The streets are bustling. Hare Krishnas on the street add to the cacophony with their drums and chanting. Students team around the pavement. Ellie sprints through the doors, hair messy, hastily dressed in the first thing she could find. Interior fashion lecture hall day. The entire group of first years are gathered. Lecturers are talking with students. Others are filling out forms or chatting, all dressed up in the nines of a variety of expressive ways. Ellie bursts in, sticking out like a sore thumb. The only empty seat is next to John. He smiles at her.
Eloise Turner.
Ellie becomes suddenly aware that people are looking at her.
It's Ellie. Sorry, what's the question?
Are you present?
A few titters slip around. Jocasta doesn't even try to contain her laughter. Interior college lobby day. Cliques have already formed. Jocasta, John, Cami, Lara, Ashley, and a gaggle of other distinctively dressed students from her class are all huddled around, cackling and joking. Ellie stands at the corner like a ghost. She's on her phone.
So how's my big-time fashion designer?
I'm good. Good.
And how was it? Did you wow them?
I don't know, Gran.
I bet you did. Anyway, you still haven't told me anything about your place.
It's great. Very modern.
And your roommate?
Jocasta? Yeah. She's fun.
Ellie watches Jocasta lead the others out of the lobby.
Let's vote. I say pub crawl. Round 2.
Everyone reacts with a mixture of groans and cheers.
Almost too much fun.
The group walks right past Ellie without noticing her.
Well, that's wonderful. I thought you'd need more time to get used to being around so many people. It's all not too much.
Yeah. No, I'm okay.
I can't wait to come down and see you when you feel more at home.
Ellie's eyes land on the notice board beside her. It's crammed with index cards, except for one small blank space in the middle. Something is missing. Ellie looks down at her feet, spots the card. She lifts it and reads, "Bed sit with toilet for long-term rent in Soho. Women only."
Yeah, when I feel more at home.
Ellie stares at the card. Exterior streets of Soho day. Ellie walks along the streets, approaching Mrs. Collins' apartment. We hear her a phone call she had with her potential new landlord as she makes her way there.
Soho 0827.
Hi, I saw an advert for a room to let.
Yes.
I'd like to let it.
Well, do you know Goge Street?
I can find it.
Well, it's 8 Goge Place. Press the buzzer for Collins.
Exterior apartment building, Goge Place, later. Ellie stands outside a Victorian mansion block. It has a faded grandeur about it. She rings the doorbell. We hear a voice call out.
Just coming, dearie.
The door opens on a latch. Mrs. Collins, a hard-faced, bespectacled woman in her mid-70s, opened the door.
Miss Collins, we spoke on the phone.
Interior hallway, apartment building day. Miss Collins leads Ellie up the stairs. It's a dark eve in the day, so the elderly landlady switches on a timer light.
Rooms on the top floor have a few rules. Don't take smokers.
I don't smoke.
No male visitors after 8 o'clock.
Not a problem.
No using the laundry room at night. It rattles right through to mine.
I don't do laundry.
Miss Collins frowns at Ellie.
I don't do nighttime laundry. I do laundry. I'm very clean.
Good.
Interior the bedroom day. Miss Collins opens the door. Ellie steps inside. This place is nothing to write home about. Just a bed, a nice old vanity mirror, tiny kitchenette through an alcove, tiny bedroom off. But Ellie is sold.
It's too old-fashioned for some, but I won't do nothing to it, so if you don't like it, find somewhere else.
It's perfect. I love it.
Miss Collins stays by the door and gives a very perfunctory tour up from the hallway.
Bed, kitchenette, bathroom. You won't have to worry about this until summer, but you have to keep the plugs in because all the smells rise up.
Ellie is still captivated by the room and its view.
How long have you been here?
A long time. Used to work here, cleaning and such, back when round here was a bad spot. Got it for buttons off the old owner.
Must be worth a lot now.
I could never sell it. Too many memories.
Yeah, if I could live any place and any time, I would pick London, here, in the 60s. It must have felt like the center of the universe.
Miss Collins is unmoved, keen to the press.
You know what a landline is? Some of your lot don't.
Of course.
Miss Collins points to the rotary phone on the bedside table.
Don't get too excited. It only makes emergency calls. Oh, and I hope you like garlic.
Yeah?
There's a French bistro next door, and pretty soon you won't be able to smell anything else.
Interior ground floor flat day. Ellie sits in a comfy chair in Miss Collins' musty but well-appointed flat. The walls are adorned with trinkets and pictures similar to Peggy's home.
So when are you looking to move in?
As soon as possible.
Miss Collins brings over a mug.
You're not in trouble or anything.
No, I need an escape.
Don't we all, dearie? What's your line of work?
Oh, I'm a student, but I have a loan and bursary.
Miss Collins seems satisfied.
What do you study?
Fashion.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, my gran is a seamstress and my mother was in the industry too, so I know how tough it can be, but I'm determined.
And you're sure you'll be able to make the rent?
I can make it work, yes.
Well, I do ask for a little more than your average landlady. I'll need 2 months rent in advance and another 2 months deposit.
Ellie mentally does the math. She looks a little worried.
Okay.
Miss Collins leans forward and gets serious.
I've had a few people just take off in the middle of the night. That's why.
Ellie also leans forward.
Mrs. Collins, I would never do that.
Interior student hall, communal area night. Ellie takes off in the middle of the night. She lugs her bags through the communal area, which is seemingly empty. Interior Ellie's new bedroom night. We see Ellie at peace, alone, unpacking in her new bedroom. Well, it's not quite home. It's close enough. She settles on her bed for a beat and finally exhales. The photograph of her mother is on the bedside table, pride of place. Ellie lifts it, stares at her mom. She's in her early 20s, confident and ambitious. Her eyes sparkle with life. With hope, Ellie runs a finger over the image of her mother, invoking her as she did before. But when she looks expectantly around the room, there is no vision of her mother, no ghost. Ellie is alone. For a second, it's almost overwhelming. Ellie sets the photograph back down. She changes into a comfy hoodie and PJs, sets up her Crosley player, puts on some vinyl. She runs her hand along the warped, musty walls, getting a feel for her new home, her new private domain. She lies back and stares at black vinyl spinning. Song You're My World by Cecilia Black. Tricolor neon seeps in from the French restaurant sign next door and flashes in her dark bedroom. Red, white, blue. Red, white, blue. Ellie pulls the bed sheets over her head to dampen the neon. The light gets through, though. Red, white, blue. Red, white, red, 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 red. Interior tunnel night. Red, red, red. Ellie pulls the bed sheet off her face to find that she's no longer in bed. Ellie glances around the strange place. She's in a tunnel. The amber glow of streetlights glint from the far end. Ellie stands and is still in her PJs and hoodie, headed for the bright lights, walking over the cobbles until it opens onto exterior Mayfair Street, 1960s night, London of the 1960s. Some buildings are the same, but the changes are noticeable. The signage, the lighting, the cars, the fashions. Right in front of Ellie is the entrance to a glamorous nightclub, the famous Café de Paris. She's drawn towards the front door. Chic men and women are queued up outside. Ellie drifts inexorably towards the entrance. Two well-dressed bouncers spot her and exchange a look. One smiles and makes room for her to walk straight into interior Café de Paris foyer night. Sumptuous, the decor drips money. Ellie stands in the middle of its stunning foyer. in her PJs. The posh cloakroom attendant doesn't seem to mind.
May I take your cloak, madam?
Ellie looks at her stained hoodie.
Oak? Yeah.
She unzips her hoodie and hands it to the attendant. As she does, she clocks a full-length mirror in the side. Ellie stares at it, bewildered. Her reflection is Sandie, early 20s, stunning, confident, and ambitious. She's dressed to the nines. There's a radiance to her. Everyone is drawn to it. None more than Ellie. Ellie walks towards the mirror, testing the reflection, unable to believe that she could ever look like Sandie, not in her wildest dreams. Sandie has a tumbling set of platinum curls, the classic Bridget Barta Croat, I have no idea. Haircut of the time, the offset, her gorgeous face, her eyes sparkle back at Ellie. We push into the mirror and observe Sandie in her reflection.
Are we with the gentleman this evening?
Sandie turns as one of the bouncers approaches, and as we pull out from the mirror, prospectively magically shift. Now Sandie stands in the lobby and Ellie is in the reflection. It's as if Ellie's is inhabiting Sandie's body. A little louder, Sandie.
You're not.
So madam is alone.
Sandie smiles. Her charm has an edge of defiance.
I am.
Very good.
The cloakroom attendant shows Sandie to the stairs. She descends into interior Cafe de Paris club night. All eyes are on Sandie as she descends a mirrored staircase. She is the belle of the ball. In the reflection of the mirrors, we see Ellie, still in her PJs, going down with her. She too is looking at Sandie. On stage is Cecilia Black herself, singing the very song that Ellie was playing on vinyl in her room. Sandie walks confidently into the nightclub floor and into the crowd. Music swells as she parts the sea of rich club goers, attracting attention from male and female patrons. She heads to a beautiful bar. Before she makes it, a rotund, balding man in his 40s stands in her way. He's well-dressed, but oozes sweat and sleaze. We'll call him Chubby, or Cubby.
Hello, you're a gorgeous creature. What's your name?
Sandie?
Cubby gestures towards a dark booth peopled with other similarly shifty men in dark suits.
Care to join my friends and I, Sandie?
Oh, thank you, but I'm here to meet the owner.
I am the owner.
Cubby grins. Sandie looks at him, wry disbelief.
I doubt that.
I'm whatever you want me to be, Sandie.
She brushes off Cubby's affection as Cecilia Black finishes her song to applause from the crowd. Sandie rocks up at a bar with a mirrored back. We see Ellie watching in the reflection, an observer in a glacial dimension. As Sandie waits for service, she sees Jack, movie star, handsome with slicked back hair. He's perfectly dressed, tie pin, pocket square. He sips a drink, eyes lock onto her. Sandie smiles just long enough, then looks away. In the mirror, we can see Ellie as Sandie's reflection, still watching all of this with awe. The bartender approaches.
What's your poison, miss?
I'm not I'm not here to drink, actually. I want to speak with the owner.
Owner's out for the night. What do you want to speak to him about?
Oh, I want to be your new headline act.
Where have you played before?
Nowhere.
Who starts at the Café de Paris?
Me.
The bartender smiles.
I can take your name if you want, but maybe you should speak to Jack in the meantime.
Jack.
The bartender points to him, now standing next to Cecilia Black, making small talk.
Over there, the guy standing by Cilla Black. He manages a lot of girls.
Sandie's eyes twinkle. She makes her way over to Jack and slides in next to him. She looks up at him. It's magnetic. He turns away from Cecilia and looks at Sandie with a smile.
Why, hello there.
The bartender said I should get to know the handsome fellow standing next to Cilla Black.
You should. Then you are?
The next Cilla Black.
Jack likes this, takes her in.
Are you now? Well, you know, she started as a coat check girl. You willing to work your way up?
Of course.
What can I get you to drink?
It's Sandie, and I'd love a Vespa.
Jack orders her a cocktail, looks her up and down.
So what do you do, Sandie?
Well, I sing, of course.
How's your dancing?
Care for a demonstration?
The new song starts up in the club and Sandie pulls Jack onto the dance floor. Song Wade Into the Water by Graham Bond Organization. Sandie proceeds to tear up the dance floor. Everyone is looking at her. Jack watches appreciatively, then joins her in the dance. The two cut a rug and look good doing it. At a key moment in the choreography, Sandie becomes Ellie for a magical moment. Also now done up in the nines with the same platinum Burdett curls. The dance ends with Sandie looking back to normal. Ellie in the reflection. Jack seems bowled over.
Your thoughts?
Jack slips a hand around Sandie's waist and waltzes with her.
You're already a star.
She grins.
But you could be an old lady before you get on stage here.
Sandie's face drops a little.
How about I get you a gig somewhere this week?
You could do that.
I could indeed. First, let me get you a drink.
Jack goes back to the bar. Cubby pounces on her once again.
Do I get a dance now?
Afraid not.
Oh, you looked up for it just then.
I'm just waiting for my friend Jack to get my drink.
Well, I'm sure Jack won't mind.
I mind.
Cubby turns nasty, grabbing Sandie's arm.
Don't pretend you don't love the attention.
Jack returns with the Vesper.
I'm bothering you.
Before Sandie can answer, Cubby weighs in.
I was only asking our friend Sandie for a dance.
Card's full right now.
In one smooth move, Jack waltzes her away from Cubby.
All right, old chap. Don't hog her all night.
You're the hog, old chap.
Sandie can't believe how cheeky Jack is. Cubby seethes.
Now don't be a little cunt about it. You can keep your little whore.
What did you call the lady?
She's a slut, mate. Look at her.
Boom. Jack punches Cubby out, lightning quick. Cubby reels back, his hand balled into fists. Before he can strike back, bam. Jack hits him again, knocks him down. It's all so sudden and shocking. We can see the flush of emotions on Sandie's face. She's both scared and thrilled. In a nearby mirror, we can see that Ellie feels the same. There's commotion as bouncers swarm the dance floor. Jack pulls Sandie out in the fray and into interior club phone booth continuous. Plush mirrored on three sides. The commotion rages outside. Jack and Sandie are suddenly in very close proximity. Sandie looks into Jack's deep blue eyes. Ooh, they kiss. In the mirror, we can see Sandie looking into her own reflection and see Ellie staring back at her. We see the ecstasy on Sandie's face as Jack roughly kisses her. We see the stunned expression on Ellie's face as Jack bites at their neck. The bouncers close in. They are found. They run up the stairs laughing like kids. Exterior Cafe de Paris night. Suddenly, in a rush, we're back on the streets where we started. Jack gesturing to Triumph Spitfire. In the background, the lights of Piccadilly Circus twinkle.
Least I can do is drive you home.
What's the most?
Jack grins.
Do you know Gooch Street?
Well,
I'm on Gooch Place, number 8.
Exterior Piccadilly Circus 1960s night. Buzzing and beautiful neon glows in the night mirrored on Jack's windshield, dancing in Sandie's eyes. In the reflection of Jack's window, we can see Ellie on the other side looking on, awed by the vintage glamour.
Being here with all these lights shining on you, it's the closest most people get to being on stage, to their dreams.
Not me.
Not you, I can see it. You want it.
More than anything.
There's just a taste of things to come, Sandie.
Exterior apartment building, Gooch Place, 1960s night. Jack pulls up outside a Victorian mansion block on Gooch Drive, the same as Ellie's, but in 1965. Jack escorts her to their door.
So I'll see you again?
I hope so.
Tomorrow, 8 p.m.
There are sparks between her and Jack.
You know where to find me.
Interior Sandie's bedroom, 1960s night. Sandie takes off her makeup in the vanity mirror. She looks very young under the foundation. Pinned to the mirror are some of her headshots. We pull back to see Ellie sitting at the mirror watching Sandie in her reflection. Sandie gets up and moves over to the bed. Ellie watches her. As Sandie drops off to sleep, Ellie stands over her watching. Suddenly compelled, she reaches out to touch Sandie's arm. As she does, interior Ellie's room, modern day, early morning, wakes up. Ellie is back in her PJs in her normal bedroom, modern day. She almost looks disappointed. Interior classroom, London College of Fashion Day, a workshop-like classroom. A mix of students sit sewing at machines and easels. Amidst all the activity is Ellie, beautifully put together today, intensely focused on the fashion illustration of the same 60s dress that Sandie wore in last night's dream. The face of the woman she sketches also looks very much like Sandie.
Self-portrait, is it?
Ellie turns to see John looking over her shoulder. She smiles at this question and says softly, almost to herself,
No, just someone I know.
She looks pretty cool.
She is.
Do you like this retro style?
Yeah, there's something about the 60s that just speaks to me.
Jocasta wanders over, annoyed by the attention Ellie is getting. When she sees the sketch, she can't help but be impressed. Then her eyes catch something, a mark on Ellie's neck, right where Jack was kissing Sandie.
This is very retro. The hickey? Very daring.
Ellie looks confused as Jocasta points at her neck. She can feel the eyes of the class suddenly upon her. John, working on his own designs, can't help but overhear.
So, what did you get up to last night? Out with some guy or girl?
Ellie pulls her sweater up, embarrassed. Jocasta grins.
No judgments from me. Live your best life. You should get some of that arnica on that, though, babes.
Interior college bathroom, London College of Fashion Day. Ellie examines the love bite in the mirror. She's horrified. And then just for a flash, we see excitement in her eyes. Exterior London College of Fashion Day, song I've Got My Mind Set on You by James Ray. Ellie leaves college, headphones in, a smirk on her lips. John chases after her, a can of Coke in his hands.
Ellie!
John taps her on the shoulder. She stops, pulls out a bud.
I really liked what you were drawing today.
Thanks.
He hands her a can of Coke with a sorry written on it.
You didn't have to.
Least I could do.
What's the most?
John is a little taken back. Ellie instantly reddens.
I don't know why I said that. I thought it would sound cool.
Yeah. Do you have any plans tonight?
I kind of do, actually.
John looks a little disappointed as Ellie smiles at herself. Interior Ellie's room night, song continues from previous scene. Ellie is back in her bed in her sleep clothes. The neon outside is flashing. Red, white, blue. Red, white, blue. Red, white, blue. Ellie turns over in bed, tries to get to sleep. Red, red, red. She squeezes her eyes shut, desperate to drift off. The doorbell rings. She opens her eyes, confused by the sound. It rings again as if someone is holding it down. Interior hallway, apartment building night. Ellie pads to the front door. She opens it to find Jack at the door, all dressed up, charming as ever. Behind him, Gooch Place is clearly from the mid-60s.
Sorry, I'm a little late.
When we cut back to Ellie, Sandie stands in her place. She is ready to go out, all made up and wearing white Macintosh coat over a gorgeous dress. She's also pretty pissed off.
A little doesn't quite cover it.
I have a feeling you forgive me.
Exterior, the Rialto, 1960s night. Jack and Sandie pull up in his Triumph outside a Soho nightclub on the street sign. Sandie stares at the ornate stone R that's above the awning that reads Rialto. She peers through the glass. The foyer is dark and empty.
It's closed.
Not for you.
Jack opens the door and enters. Interior of the Rialto 1960s night. After hours, the club is deserted, spooky even. There's a bar, some plush booths at the back, seating for the 100 in the front for a small stage with velvet curtains.
What's going on?
An audition.
She jumps and turns to club owner, well-dressed, older. He stands up in the second row, now visible to Sandie. She looks up at Jack. He flashes that killer smile. Moments later, the curtains pull back to reveal Sandie on stage in spotlight. Jack and the club owner sit in the second row.
All right. Knock us dead.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. Downtown.
Jack and the club owner watch on entrance as Sandie sings Downtown by Petula Clark. We pan from them to Sandie commanding the stage, her voice hauntingly beautiful. We pan back to see Ellie sitting in the front row of the audience in her PJs before the club owner and Jack, who cannot see her. Ellie stands and walks towards the singing Sandie, utterly drawn to her. She stops at the foot of the stage, entranced. Sandie finishes. Ellie continues staring at her beguiling figure. Applause from Jack shatters the silence.
Oh, she can sing.
Ellie watches as Sandie walks to the blackness of the wings. Exterior, the Rialto 1960s, moments later, and emerges from the blackness of the Rialto entrance into the street. Street cleaners begin their graveyard shift in the near empty streets. Sandie is now walking together with Jack. They're giddy and excited. Ellie follows close behind.
I can't fucking believe it.
I can.
I can't wait to get back on there.
There's no Cafe de Paris.
Oh, it's perfect, Jack. Thank you.
Like I said, least I can do.
This is much better than being a coat checker. All we have to do is start somewhere, and we all have to start somewhere.
Indeed we do.
Do you think I should get a stage name?
What's Sandie short for?
Alexandra?
Stick with Sandie. Suits you.
They stop outside the window of a dress shop. We can now see Ellie in the reflection watching the two of them.
Could do with some more outfits.
Anything else you need?
A manager? Know
I can
anyone?
manage. Nothing I can manage you.
She grins playfully. Jack pulls her close, smiles down at her. They kiss. The camera whirls around them, wraps them in the darkness of the street as they embrace. In a blink of the eye, we are in interior Sandie's bedroom, 1960s, continuous. Sandie breaks off from the kiss. She and Jack are now magically in her bedroom, still in an embrace.
As long as you're in this for the long run.
Sandie, I'm with you till the end.
Jack and Sandie fall into the bed and into the shadow. Reveal in the background Ellie watching, an unwitting voyeur. She cannot tear her eyes away. Interior Ellie's bedroom, now night. Ellie wakes with a start. She's sitting up in the very bed that she dreamt Jack and Sandie were just lying on. She lies back down, tries to get back to sleep. Interior hair salon day. The screen is filled with a head of golden curls, the back of Sandie's head, but the chair swivels to reveal Ellie. She has had her hair dyed to the same platinum blonde as Sandie, styled like the Bardot crochet. She looks in the mirror, admiring her new look, then beams at the stylist.
I can't fucking believe it.
Flash. She takes a selfie of her new platinum do.
Well, it's certainly a surprise.
Exterior London College of Fashion day. Song Heatwave by The Who. A confident Ellie walks down the street towards the entrance to her college. She's on the phone with Peggy.
If I didn't know it was you, I'd walk right by you on the street. It makes you look so grown up.
You don't like it?
I like it if you like it.
She can't ignore the admiring looks she gets from the passerbys.
I love it.
Well, good. I'm just glad you're finding yourself in London, Eloise.
It's everything I dreamt of.
Interior classroom, London College of Fashion day.
It's ambitious, I'll give you that. But I'm not sure this vintage fabric will behave.
Ellie is standing by a larger and more detailed version of her drawing of Sandie's dress. She's drawn the dress from several angles. Sandie, too. The detail is stunning. Fabric swatches are pinned all over the board. Miss Tobin is standing next to Ellie, running her fingers over the chosen fabrics.
Gonna be tricky to work with. Best use something modern.
No, this is exactly what it needs. Something radiant, but not too structured.
Okay, go on.
It needs to meld, flow like her. How it drapes on her arms, gathers at her sides.
Oh, you imagine the wearer when you're designing.
Ellie can feel the eyes of the class now.
Yes, it's just when you see someone in it, when I imagine it, she's wearing the dress isn't wearing her.
Miss Tobin looks at Ellie, really impressed.
I hope you were all listening to that.
Ellie looks around. All the eyes of her classmates are on her. They look a little odd. Jocasta whispers under her breath.
Was it something about the 60s?
Ellie kind of loves the attention.
Excellent, Ellie. And I like the hair.
Thank you.
Interior vintage clothes shop day.
It really suits you.
Thanks for telling me I'm pretty.
A female shop assistant looks on as Ellie tries on a vintage white Macintosh in a secondhand store in Soho. The outfit has an unmistakable echoes of the one Sandie wore in the Rialto.
It does, doesn't it? Everything was just so well made back then.
We have a Biba dress in the back, 1967, immaculate condition. You should try that one too.
The assistant heads off to get it, and Ellie steps closer to the cheval mirror to check herself out. But then she sees a detail of the building across the street. It's the ornate stone R that was above the awning of the Rialto. Ellie stares at it, dumbstruck. Exterior vintage clothes shop. Moments later, Ellie is in a trance, walks into the street, stares at what was once the club. It's now one of the many spa message parlors in Soho. The building has changed, but the stone R is undeniably the same one she saw in her dream last night.
Excuse me?
The assistant has followed her into the street.
Are you going to pay for that?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Interior vintage clothes shop. Moments later, Ellie is back in her own clothes as the assistant rings up the dress.
So that will be £375.
Ellie's face falls.
Seriously?
Interior the Toucan Day. Ellie walks into the Irish pub that she went into on our first night. It's near empty in the day and less obnoxious for it. A bartender is serving a few customers present.
Are you still hiring?
Interior the Toucan Basement Day. Ellie descends the stairs to see the manager, Carol, 50. Something with many laugh lines, talking to a gentleman at the bar. His back is to Ellie and we cannot see his face.
What can I get you, love?
I was hoping a job.
Carol looks her up and down.
Have a seat. You want a drink?
Yeah. Can I get a Vesper?
This isn't Mayfair, darling. You ever worked in a pub before?
No, but we all have to start somewhere.
I'll get you a G&T.
Carol nods for Ellie to sit and disappears to make a drink. As Ellie moves over towards the seat, the gentleman who was talking to Carol looks round at her and catches her eyes. Ellie's face ripples with recognition. It's the silver-haired gentleman from the first night in London. He stares at her. She shifts uncomfortably. Carol reappears.
So what shifts can you do?
Whenever you want.
Exterior, the Toucan Evening. Ellie heads down the street, checking out her blonde reflection in the shop window, black apron and rotata in hand.
Excuse me? Excuse me, left.
Ellie turns to see the silver-haired gentleman from the bar following her. She moves quicker, but she has to stop at the lights. He catches up to her.
I'm talking to you, Blondie.
Sorry, I have to be somewhere.
I'm not trying to pick you up, sweetheart. Don't worry.
I'm not worried.
You look, familiar to me. Who's your mother?
My mother is dead.
Oh, I thought she might be. Most of them are.
Profoundly weirded out, Ellie steps away from him and into the street. A black cab comes out of nowhere. She's almost knocked out. The silver-haired gentleman smiles.
Watch where you're going, girl.
Exterior, interior, apartment building, Gouge Place, later. Shaken, Ellie looks around to make sure she's not followed as she opens her door. Miss Collins is in the hallway sorting through her posts. She looks at Ellie suspiciously.
Can I help you?
It's me, Ellie.
Miss Collins looks at her for a beat, then realizes.
So it is. Look at that. You've changed your hair.
Yes, I wanted to go for something different, a bit 60s.
You play a lot of that music, don't you?
Is it too loud?
Not at all. Well, what's that about? It's from my day, not yours.
My gran played it a lot. I guess I just like the old songs better than the stuff today.
The music was better, yes.
Interior, Ellie's bedroom night. Song Downtown by Petula Clark. Ellie's in the bed early, listening to Downtown, trying to trigger the next dream. Desperately excited. Red, blue, red, white, blue. Red, white, blue. We hear clapping in the time with an oomfa rhythm. Red, red, red. Interior, the Rialto, 1960s, the third dream night. Ellie opens her eyes. She's now in the audience of the Rialto, still in her PJs and sleep clothes. The club is full, but she can only see the silhouettes of the patrons clapping in time with the oompa rhythms. The curtains pull back as a female silhouette is on stage. There are cheers as a spotlight switches on to reveal a half-naked burlesque performer who is not Sandie. She has marionette strings in her arms that disappear up into the rafters. She lip syncs Puppet on a String. Song Puppet on a String by Sandy Shaw.
I wonder if one day that you'll say that you care. If you say you love me madly, I'll gladly be there like a puppet on a string.
Ellie is struck with disappointment. Her eyes scan around for Sandie at the bar. For Sandie. At the bar, Jack nudges his neighbor and points on stage. Ellie follows his line to see dancers flanking the main singer on stage. They too wear marionette strings or an even less clothed. The crowd roars. There's something primal in the cheers. Ellie focuses on stage and her breath catches. Sandie appears, one of the backup dancers. She has a painted on smile as she performs. Ellie sinks a little. Sandie and the other dancers sway. A risque move causes another cheer. Ellie turns to see that the crowd is all men, creepy and leering. Wolf whistles cut through the music. She turns back to the show to see Sandie blow a kiss to a leering guy in the audience. This prompts Ellie to leave. She stands and struggles through the leering crowd. Ellie spots the club owner sitting in the booth, pointing out Sandie to some rich-looking businessmen. She moves quicker, heading for the exit. She closes in on Jack at the bar he's drinking with. Is that Cubby? The nasty piece of work from Cafe de Paris? Ellie storms out of the venue, the oompa rhythm and clapping rings in her head. She heads to the exit, but instead of escaping to the street, she finds herself in interior Sandie's dressing room later. Ellie is suddenly alone with Sandie, who looks at herself in the tatty mirror. Her headshot pinned to it, the beautiful, excited young Sandie stares out from the black and white photograph. Sandie scrapes off her thick makeup. We can now see the time has passed between these dreams. Sandie is a little older now, drawn and thinner in the face. She lights a cigarette and takes a long draw, staring at herself in the mirror as she exhales. She stares at her own headshot, a younger her. Sandie looks crushed. This is not the life she had imagined. Sandie then snaps and hits her own headshot with her fist. The mirror cracks behind the photo. Ellie approaches, goes to place her hand on Sandie's shoulder. As she makes contact, there's a knock on the door.
Where's my Sandie?
Sandie says nothing. Jack knocks again, more forceful.
No, it's not over yet.
Sandie and Ellie look back towards the door in unison.
Come on, open up.
Interior hall outside Sandie's dressing room, continuous. The door opens, but it is not Sandie who answers to Jack, but Ellie as Sandie inhabiting her body and dress.
What do you want?
Don't talk daft, you know.
Jack grabs her hand and takes her back into the club. Interior, the Rialto, moments later, at a VIP booth in the club sits the club owner and some rich businessmen, one of whom we will call Punter. Jack approaches with Ellie, Sandie in tow, and sits down. Punter, a bespectacled sleaze, leans forward to kiss Ellie, Sandie's hand. We were promised a great show, and a show you did. Show you did.
Thank you.
Punter does not let go of her hand. Ellie, Sandie, looks at Jack, hoping he will step in. He doesn't. Maybe we could go for some drinks, Sandie. Just us.
I'm with Jack.
Jack doesn't mind, do you?
Not one bit.
Ellie and Sandie look at him shocked. She gets up and leaves. Jack follows her, catching up and grabs her arm.
Sandie, get back here.
Jack, I don't want to do this.
Jack pulls her close, his handsome face twisting into a sneer. It's frightening.
You told me you were serious about being a performer, so if you want to keep doing it, these are the kind of men that you need to keep happy. These men really need, the men you really need to perform for.
No, Jack.
Sandie pulls away. He chases after her.
Everybody else is doing it. What makes you so special?
Sandie turns back, but is now angry Eloise.
She said no!
Ellie, Sandie break away. Jack shouts after her.
We all have to start somewhere.
Interior backstage, the Rialto continuous. Ellie runs into the dressing room area and frantically looks for the exit in the warren of dressing rooms and corridors. Jack chases after her, but even as she loses him, she can still hear his angry voice.
Sandie, don't be a damn fool.
Ellie's desperate search for an exit takes her through a maze of misery. She catches glimpses in rooms of this corridor. In the first room is a young dancer sobbing on the phone.
No, it's not what I thought.
In the second room, a slightly older dancer takes 2 pills. She smiles into the mirror. It doesn't reach her eyes.
Sandie, this is the way it works.
In the third room, the dancer is older again, clearly on uppers, scantily clad, dancing for a punter. His hands are all over her. She squirms under his touch as he pulls off her clothes.
I do what your manager tells you.
On the fourth room, we catch a glimpse of flesh. A dancer is naked, servicing a customer. Ellie runs faster now.
Don't want me to be unhappy, do you?
In the fifth room, a dancer is on downers. Drug paraphernalia litters the stained couch she lays on. She stares at the wall, lost and alone.
Remember, you were the one who wanted this more than anything, you said.
The passage out of the hellish club becomes unclear, this backstage world feeling more like a Kafka-esque trapped.
You know this is all an act. You know where this is heading, Sandie. You owe me. Where are you going to run to, home?
Hurriedly, Ellie opens up one last door in a dark hallway, only for it to open onto interior Sandie's bedroom, 1960s night. Ellie finds herself back in the 1960s bedroom, and before her, Sandie on the bed, wrapped in sheets that are tangled post-coital. She's sleeping, or at least pretending to. Ellie, now back in her PJs, looks on horrified. Jack's voice echoes.
Going to work your way up?
She approaches Sandie to see if she's okay, pulls the sheets down to cover her naked legs.
You should speak to Jack. He manages a lot of girls.
Ellie then sees on the nightstand a wad of pound notes. Her face drops.
This is just a taste of things to come, Sandie.
Behind her, the toilet flushes. Light spills into the room as bathroom door opens. Cooey. A perspiring Pointer enters in shirt and underwear. He is doing up his tie as he walks towards Sandie. I know you're not asleep. Ellie's face drops with horror. She watches the smug Pointer approaches Sandie on the bed, then shouts.
Leave her alone.
Pointer turns, seemingly looking right at Eloise. Then beep, 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 beep. Both of them turn to look at Ellie's alarm, or the place where her alarm should be. Interior Ellie's bedroom, morning. Beep, 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 beep. Ellie wakes with a start. She reaches over to shut off her alarm. Then suddenly, Pointer's hand grabs her. I know you're not asleep. Pointer is here in the real world. His sweaty, smug face leers directly at Ellie. His clammy hand clutches her. Interior Ellie's bedroom morning. Ellie wakes with a start. She's alone. Beep, beep, beep. Her alarm is still going off. Interior Ellie's bedroom moments later, a freaked out Ellie stands in the kitchenette making a cup of tea. As the kettle boils, she notices a loop flap of plaster on the wall. She pulls it back to reveal the 1960s wallpaper pattern from the bedroom in her dreams. The sound of the whistling kettle mirrors her growing anxiety. This is proof of the reality in those dreams. She tears more paper away, revealing a handwritten message underneath. Help me. Interior classroom, London College of Fashion later. Ellie, looking drawn and exhausted, stands amid the busy students working on their designs. Before her, on a mannequin, is a rough version of the dress that Sandie was wearing in the first dream. Jack's voice echoes in her head.
You were the one who wanted this. More than anything, you said.
Ellie's face contorts, something between sadness and disgust.
You're mine now.
She takes her draft drawing up the dress, scrunches it up. Ellie then unpicks the fabric and dismantles her intricate sewing. John watches her obsessively undoing her work. Jocasta smirks and makes catty comments to Cami and company. Miss Tobin passes by and tries to stop her.
Ellie, what are you doing?
Starting again.
Wait! This is just a wobble, a crisis of confidence. See it all the time. But don't stop now, Ellie. You're onto something really good here.
Miss Tobin smooths out the crumpled sketch of Sandie and puts it into Ellie's hand. Ellie stares at it, haunted. Interior, the Toucan basement bar evening. Click. Carol snaps her fingers. The bar is practically empty. Ellie is behind it, looking at the wrinkled drawing of Sandie on the bar top.
You tuned to the moon?
Ellie looks at Carol. Huh?
Customer.
Ellie turns to see John at the bar waiting to be served. He waves, flashing a smile. Ellie folds up her sketch of Sandie, leaves it on the bar, and moves over to John.
Hi, what do you want?
But I heard you worked here now, and I was going for a drink, and I thought, kill two birds with one stone, just because you seemed a little upset in class yesterday, today, and I thought maybe I could swing by and say how you're getting on.
Thanks. I meant, What do you want to drink?
They both look a little embarrassed.
Oh, yeah. 3 Cronenbergs, please.
Ellie pulls the pints.
Heard you got a new place.
Yeah, I'm in a bed sit.
It's good, right?
Yeah, it's really something else.
I mean, it must be great living on your own.
Must be.
Ellie tails off. John can tell something's not right.
Why? What's up?
Nothing. I'm just a little overwhelmed at the moment. London's a lot.
John pauses for a beat, waiting to see if she'll open up.
I get it. Coming to the city can be a nightmare. Honestly, I'd be lying if I said I was having the best time in North London so far.
Where did you move from?
South London.
Ellie smiles a little at this. She puts his pint in the bar.
I'm going to get these to my mates, but I know what it's like to feel you don't belong. And I'm a good listener if you ever want to talk about it.
Ellie looks directly at John as he says this. He grabs his pints and leaves. Carol jokes at her.
They're meant to talk about their problems to you, not the other way around.
Ellie tries to laugh it off. Her phone rings. She looks at the screen. It's Peggy calling. She leaves the bar to take it outside, passing the folded sketch on the bar. Unseen by her, the silver-haired gentleman turns to watch her leave. He's been at the bar this whole time. He then looks at the sketch left behind.
How is everything? You never tell me anything anymore.
Exterior, the Toucan night. Ellie, on her break, is on her cell phone talking to Peggy. She appears strained, but tries to keep up her spirits.
Everything's just great, Gran.
A drunk guy is being carried out of the Toucan by his friends. He spots Ellie.
Goodbye, beautiful. I'll be back tomorrow.
Who's that?
Oh, no one. We're just out at the pub again, having fun.
We?
Hurricane Jocasta, everyone really, the whole class.
Something's wrong, isn't it?
No.
Ellie, I can hear it in your voice.
I really am at the pub. I'm working here.
Working there?
I moved out of the halls. I needed to get my own place.
Did something happen? Did you see her again?
No, Mum's not with me.
Then what is it? What's wrong?
Gran, I should go back in.
Ellie, I know you think you have something to prove, but it's okay to ask for help. You just have to tell me. She didn't.
I have to go. I love you.
Ellie lets out a breath, visibly upset about lying to her grandmother.
Everything all right, Ellie?
We reveal the silver-haired gentleman is standing nearby. He takes a drag on a cigarette, grins.
Or do I call you Eloise, like the old song?
I don't know that song, and how do you know my name?
I make it my business to know all the pretty girls around here. All their problems. Always have done.
Ellie finds his gaze unnerving. He offers her a cigarette.
You smoke, don't you, love?
No.
Must be thinking of some other blonde.
The silver-haired gentleman produces the crumpled sketch of Sandie that Ellie left at the bar and hands it to her.
Be well.
He winks at her and wanders off into the night. Ellie watches him go, and the male bartender comes out to collect the glasses.
Was Hansy bothering you?
Hansy?
Yeah, he's a bit of an octopus. Harold says he was a right ladies' man back in the day. Probably thinks he has a shot with you.
Ellie stares at the gentleman as he walks off. The red lights of a reversing garbage truck illuminate him ominously. Interior, the Toucan basement bar after hours. As Carol closes up, Ellie nurses the dregs of whiskey.
Do you believe in spirits?
What kind of question is that? That brown stuff pays your wages.
Ellie looks at Carol. She's serious.
I mean, do you believe in ghosts?
Ghosts. Why, are you scared down here? Look, I believe every old place, old house, public or not, has its history. But this place is haunted by anything. It's the good times, the good vibrations. And I don't mean the Beach Boys. When it's empty in here, all I hear is laughs. Every gangster, every copper, every red-faced lush has been in here, and all those high spirits have soaked into the walls. You could probably get drunk just on that.
Yeah.
Ellie stares down at her empty glass. Carol sighs.
Ellie, I love you, girl. You fit right in. But you can't sleep here.
Interior hallway, apartment building night. Eloise enters the dark hallway and switches on the timer light. She ascends the stairs to her room with trepidation. Interior Ellie's room night. Ellie sits on her bed, still in her coat. The neon flashes outside. Red, white, blue. Red, white, blue. She's anxious, fighting sleep. She looks at the record player, doesn't feel like hearing anything. Red, white, blue. Red, red, red. She looks at the walls, worried about the spirits that may have soaked in here. Suddenly, the record player starts playing of its own accord. Ellie stares at it, terrified. Red, red, red. Then the door swings open. A furious and strung out Jack enters from the 60s. He looks older. His charms has faded. He storms towards Ellie.
Come on, they're waiting for you.
He grabs Ellie's hand.
Don't touch me.
No rest for the wicked, Sandie.
Jack drags her to the door, pushes her through it and into interior basement nightclub, late 1960s night. Song Land of the 1000 Dances by the Walker Brothers. We are now in a new club. Although it's entirely mirrored, it feels dark and cavernous. Ellie has magically become Sandie again. Ellie is trapped in the mirror as a reflection. Dance floor full of other girls dancing with older businessmen, shifty looking men. Sandie is wearing a revealing mini dress. She looks at her reflection in the mirror, at her gaunt face, pale and colorless now from her nocturnal life. She shakes her head. How did I end up here? A glowering Jack steps in front of the mirror. We see him for what he is, not a manager, but a pimp. Sandie stares up at him, a hint of defiance in her eyes. Jack grabs her shoulders and sees.
You know how to dance? You know why you're here? Get on with it.
He releases her. She dances, full of melancholy. She looks at herself in the mirror again, trying not to catch the eyes of any of the men watching on. A heartbroken Ellie watches, a prisoner in the mirror. A man approaches the dancing Sandie. She looks up and meets his eyes. We will call him Punter 1. Hello there. Interior nightclub booth, dance floor intercut. Sandie, cigarette in hand, sits in the corner booth with Punter 1, flanked by mirrors. This is one table is reflected into infinity. Ellie is in the mirror, helplessly watching on. In the following sequence, we see many shifty punters talk to Sandie, the quick cuts representing an endless succession of nights in the claustrophobic club. Passage of time is shown by Sandie's changing dress, which gets darker and darker. And B, the dialogue is interspersed with shots of Sandie dancing, glowing more and more hectic and out of control. Champagne is placed on the table. Sandie takes a glass, turns to Punter 1 with a fixed smile and dead eyes.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Alexandra.
Well, that's a lovely name.
Thanks.
Sandie dances, champagne served, new dress, new punter.
What's your name?
Alexa.
That's a lovely name.
Thanks.
Sandie dances, champagne served, new dress, new punter.
What's your name?
Andy.
That's a lovely name.
Thanks.
Sandie dances, champagne served, new dress, new punter.
What's your name?
Lexi.
That's a lovely name. Careful now.
Thanks.
Sandie dances, champagne served, new dress, new punter.
What's your name?
This punter feels different. He has no sense of shame. His fixed grin is unnerving. His clothes new and expensive. He offers Sandie a cigarette. She takes it and answers.
Alex.
No. What's your real name, love?
Sandie glares at him.
I reckon you're a copper or something?
He winks and smiles wryly at her.
Do you know? So what is it?
Sandie.
You're too good for this, Sandie.
Sandie looks at Jack sitting at the bar with another girl. He watches her gloating.
Pretty little thing like you laying in the gutter. I'd get out while you can, girl. You're better than this.
She turns back, sadness in her eyes as she flatly replies.
I don't think I am.
Ellie watches this and is crushed by this reply.
Of course you are. Just look in the mirror.
Ellie starts banging on the glass, trying to convince Sandie she's better than this, convince her to leave, to run. Sandie refuses to look at herself.
What if I don't want to?
Then maybe it's too late for you.
No!
Ellie pounds the glass. It's starting to crack, draws the attention of Punter 5. Ellie hits the glass harder. It splinters and cracks. Ellie smashes through, reaches from the mirror to grab Sandie's shoulder. But then, interior of the bedroom night, Ellie wakes up in the bedroom. She gathers herself, but then notices the flashing red neon, which reveals the wallpaper is the 1960s pattern. The bed is different. The brass frames at the head and the foot are like prison bars. Ellie looks up at the ceiling and sees an overhead mirror. In this reflection is Sandie, dressed in tacky underwear. Then Ellie reveals a figure in the shadows. A flashing red neon reveals a punter from the club undressing. Every time the neon flashes to black, the punter changes. The red neon strobes through the passage of time and a multitude of creepy men undressing for sex. Ellie shakes her head, horrified. She looks at the vanity mirror and sees Sandie. On every strobe, her negligee changes and her expression looks deadlier with every pulse. Through the red and black strobes, the morphine punters move towards her. We see their gnarled hands on the bedpost as they advance on the bed, changing, stripping. As the punters undress, something even more sinister occurs. It is as if the black ink has blotted out their features. The twisted smiles, the hungry eyes, every individual thing about them is stained with total darkness. No longer distinct, now just an outline of a man, emotionless, soulless, blank. They are no longer distinctly human. They are shadows. A procession of shadow men advance on Ellie. Approaching her bed, we see a belt unbuckle, and with that, Ellie is up, getting the fuck out of here. She rushes towards the bedroom door, gets in, and locks it. Interior bathroom, bedroom morning. Ellie realizes she's in her modern bathroom. It's daylight. Her bedroom is empty. Ellie turns back to the bathroom sink, exhales, tries to calm down. When she turns back into the room, it is now full of shadow men, maybe 13 of them, and they fill the room, their blank faces staring back at Ellie, their bodies a horrible void. On Ellie's completely horrified face, we cut to interior London College of Fashion evening. Ellie is back in college, standing in front of her work, but doing nothing. So exhausted, she's practically a zombie, the ghost of shock still on her face. Only a few students are left at this late hour. John is among them. Ellie still has the same hair as Sandie, but she reverts to her own somewhat plain, dark clothes. John approaches.
Got plans tonight, Ellie?
I'd love to come out.
I haven't even said what it is yet.
Right.
But you're saying yes anyway.
I am. I need to get out of my house.
Well, there's a student union night down in Vaux Hall, a Halloween thing, and you're already in black, so it's perfect. Want to haunt this party with me?
Don't we have to dress up?
Interior Vaux Hall pub, Halloween party night. Song There's a Ghost in My House by R. Dean Taylor. We are in a huge South London pub that's been gloriously decked out in horror paraphernalia for a Halloween disco. All the students from art and fashion have gone all out with their costumes. Everyone except John and Ellie, who walk around in dark clothes and simple ghost makeup. Pale face, paint with dark eyes. Jocasta's at the bar with Cami, Ashley, and Lara. The quartet are dressed as the teen witches from The Craft. Jocasta sees John and Ellie, points them out to her sinister clique.
Do you want to dance?
I might need alcohol first.
Right, I'm on it.
Jocasta comes over, 2 large cocktails for them.
No need. Get these down, yeah.
They take the drinks. Jocasta smiles as they down them.
Happy Halloween, lovebirds.
Interior of a hall, pub, Halloween party later. Song Happy House by I don't know. And the Banshees.
Susie?
Thank you. Susie and the Banshees. That is not how I'm used to seeing Susie spelled.
Nope.
Ellie is dancing on her own, a pale figure in the black clothes and a seal of ornate costumes. It's magnetic to watch. John joins and the dance quickly becomes steamy. They seem high on life and each other. Each student watch them steam up the dance floor, especially Jocasta and her costume clique. The feeling on the dance floor is magical, but a little woozy. Ellie smiles at this moment with him, but then sees shadow men lurking in the crowd. It's impossible to tell if they are the shadow men from her dream or just dark figures in the club. All around her, dark outlines are dancing, almost writhing. It turns frantic, unnerving as the dark limbs thrash. Ellie stares past John to now see on the dance floor Sandie dancing in the same frenzied fashion as she did in the dingy basement bar. Around her, shadow men check her out. Ellie blinks at this haunting vision. Then she sees Jack lurking on the dance floor too, glowering at Sandie. Ellie moves forward towards Sandie, trying to get her through the melee of dancers and shadows.
Sandie?
On her voice is lost under the music. Ellie keeps moving onward, pushing through the crush of people to get to her.
Sandie!
Flashes of Sandie's blonde hair catch the disco lights. Ellie pushes through the final group of dancers to see nothing. Sandie is gone, Jack too. John catches up with Ellie.
What is it, Elle?
Ellie feels dizzy. She nods to the door.
I need some air.
Ellie!
Ellie bolts. Exterior Valhalla pub, Halloween party moments later. Ellie leaves. John trails her. She shakes her head, certain she imagined the silhouettes. She stops at a lamppost and tries to collect herself, but up ahead she sees the shadows of different couples in a nearby pedestrian tunnel. Is that Sandie with a punter? Jack with another girl watching them? It's difficult to tell what's real. John is caught up with her.
Ellie, is there anything I can do?
Ellie snaps out of her vision and sees that the shadowy couples are, in fact, kissing club goers, gay and straight, who are making out in the arches.
I don't want to be like this.
Like what?
I wish I was like everybody else.
I'm glad you're not.
Ellie pulls John close to her and kisses him. It starts to lightly rain on their warm embrace.
You want to go somewhere else?
They speak between kisses.
I'm not meant to have guys back,
Okay.
so you'll have to be quiet.
Okay. You don't want to just get some sleep?
I really don't want to sleep.
Well, I can keep you up.
Ellie looks at him. Really? John gets all embarrassed.
What am I saying?
They
God.
laugh. Kiss again. Exterior apartment building, Googe Place night. We see a soaked Ellie and John run through the rain to her door, laughing and shouting as they go. The neon of the French bistro bleeds into the puddles. Interior hallway, apartment building night. Ellie creeps into the hallway with John. Their makeup has run off into the rain with only ghostly traces left. She hits the timer light and shushes John with her finger on his lips. He proceeds to kiss it, then begin making out. Ellie breaks off and they shake with the giggles as they silently creep up the stairs. Interior Ellie's bedroom night. Ellie and John sit in the bed. The room is lit with a flashing neon. Red, white, blue. They're kissing. It's intimate, very tender. Some clothes come off. John is on top of her. Red, red, red. Over his shoulder, Ellie is distracted by a glint of light. It dazzles her. What is that? She peers closely. Above on the ceiling is the overhead mirror from the dreams, and in the reflection is neither her nor John, but Sandie in a nightdress lying on top of the bed. She's struggling as Jack pins her down. He is dressed in a suit and waving a large knife in Sandie's terrified face. Red, red, red. The knife glints in the light that reflects back into Ellie's terrified face. Garbled 60s music echoes from beyond. Red, red, red.
Get off of me.
John stops immediately, rolls to her side.
You okay?
Ellie's eyes are glued to the ceiling, to the struggle between Jack and Sandie.
I own you.
John follows her eye line, but just to see the plain white ceiling.
What's wrong?
Sandie looks at Ellie, almost pleading.
You belong to me.
Get off her!
John looks at Ellie, frightened, bewildered.
Don't you ever disobey me.
Get off her! Get off her!
I'm not on her. What? Ellie?
Ellie can't look away from the struggle in the mirror.
Ellie!
Ellie's eyes flit to John, then to the vanity mirror behind. In the reflection, she can also see Jack on top of Sandie, clutching her face, the knife pointing dangerously close. Red, red, red.
Don't you ever disrespect.
Ellie looks up to see Jack looming over her with the knife.
Me.
She jumps off the bed and looks back, her eyes glued to the scene now playing out on the bed before her. Red, red, red. Ellie sees Sandie and Jack struggle, both hands on the knife. John sees nothing but a frightened Ellie.
Ellie, what's wrong?
Ellie watches as Sandie's free hand goes for Jack's eyes, scratches at them. She's feral. Jack smashes his hand away. Sandie's face raises the knives. Ellie scrambles backward.
Ellie!
Bang, bang, bang. The door, someone is trying to open it.
What's going on in there? No male visitors. Get him out of here. I'll call the police.
Oh, fuck.
John looks around in panic. Ellie is still in a frightened trance. Miss Collins sounds furious. John instinctively reaches for his jeans and fumbles to put them on.
Get him out.
Miss Collins begins to unlock the door. Ellie finally looks up at the door as she hears the key. John struggles to put on his jeans at the speed and trips backwards into the vanity mirror, smashing the glass. Then he falls painfully against the bedside table, knocking a lamp to the floor and lighting the room in a peculiar way. Ellie sees in the vanity mirror reflection the hideous refracted image of Sandie holding the knife at bay with one hand and scratching Jack's face with the other. Jack raises the knife.
No!
Then the door flings open. The room is lit from the hallway outside, casting Miss Collins as a silhouette. The figure of Sandie and Jack are also cast into silhouette. John freaks and runs out of the room. The angry Mrs. Collins attempts to hit him as he passes.
Get out.
Ellie looks at John and Mrs. Collins, but the glint of steel brings her back to the struggle before her. Win. Stab, stab, stab. Ellie sees the blade plunging. She sees blood spread all over Sandie's throat and collarbone, the horror in Sandie's eyes. John runs down the stairs as Miss Collins shouts after him.
Get out of here, you bastard.
The timer light in the hallway switches out, semi-darkness. Ellie is alone in the room with Jack laying on top of Sandie's body, blood seeping all over the sheets. Suddenly, Miss Collins returns. She reaches inside the door and flicks the main light on. In a blink, Jack, Sandie, and the blood are gone. Only the rumpled sheets, Ellie's horrified face, and the smashed mirror and trails of John's blood remain. The place fills with bright light. Everything is normal.
You okay?
Yeah.
Did he hurt you?
No.
You sure?
He didn't hurt me.
Ellie looks scared and confused. There's a long pause.
We'll talk about this in the morning.
Miss Collins slams the door shut. Ellie is all alone in the room. That's the site of a murder. Interior Ellie's room, bathroom. Moments later, Ellie is now in the bath, clothed, her eyes riveted awake, scissors clasped to her chest, her terror palpable. Interior Ellie's room, morning. Ellie sweeps up the glass on the floor. She looks gaunt with exhaustion. Dark circles gape under her red eyes. Interior apartment building, hallway, day. Ellie knocks on her landlady's door. Miss Collins opens it.
I'm sorry for everything.
Well, it won't happen again, will it?
No. I'll pay for the mirror too.
We all pay for a broken mirror, dearie.
Beat. Ellie hauntingly asks a question.
Did a girl live upstairs before?
Lots of girls have lived here over the years.
Someone called Sandie?
Miss Collins looks at her bemused.
Lots of girls have lived here, and not all of them with their real names. Why do you ask?
Did someone die in my room?
Miss Collins looks at her, half concerned, half amused.
Dearie, this is London. Someone has died in every room, in every building, in this whole city. Every street corner, too. And speaking of which, I would have killed your gentleman friend last night if I'd caught him. So count yourself lucky, broken mirror or not.
Miss Collins firmly closes the door. Ellie stands there for a beat, lost. She glances up, back to her room. She hears the creaking of the old stairs. Footsteps. Ellie inches forward until she sees a pair of legs in silhouette walking slowly down. A shadow man is descending the stairs. But is it just one, Punter? Or is it several? They seem to change with each step. Bang! A shadowy hand rests on the banister and the camera tilts up to reveal Jack, sneering at Eloise, a malicious grin on his face.
Where are you going?
Ellie answers this by bolting fast. Interior classroom, London College of Fashion, morning. Ellie comes into class late. Her bed-ragged appearance garners looks from the other students.
Good morning, Ellie.
John, standing among some male mannequins, looks over to her. She realizes his gaze inches towards him, but then she sees Jocasta and Cami whispering and laughing, their eyes on her.
Oh, something happened last night.
Moments later, snip, snip, snip. Ellie is cutting material with her razor-sharp scissors. She looks burnt out and exhausted as she tries to bury herself in work. We see Ellie working with Lara, who is wearing her prototype dress. She's altering the hemline with the dressmaker's pins.
How's that feel?
Ellie glances up. Lara is no longer present. Sandie is, her face, décolletage, and hair covered in blood. Ellie drops her scissors on the ground and jumps back, knocking a rail flying. It clatters through the still classroom. Ellie stares at the blood-soaked Sandie.
You know where to find me.
Ellie looks around at the other students. Can they see this? When she looks back, it's not Sandie, but Lara.
Eloise, what's wrong?
Ellie, are you okay?
Ellie keeps backing away from Lara. The whole class is staring at this car crash.
What the fuck is wrong with her?
John walks over with concern.
Ellie, talk to me.
Ellie's eyes stick to John, then behind him. All of John's mannequins are now shadow men. She grabs her scissors and runs.
Ellie!
Interior corridor, London College of Fashion Continuous. Song Always Something There to Remind Me by Sandie Shaw. Ellie bursts out of the classroom. Eyes turn and land on her. A sea of people in the busy hallway watching her. She pushes her way towards the exit. Ellie breaks into a section of corridor where glutes of male models stand, waiting for fittings, all scantily clad, some practically naked. Ellie keeps moving through, then suddenly, male hands grab at her, press their bodies against her. Ellie sees the male models as shadow men, pawing, grasping, turning into shadows as soon as they make contact with her. She bursts through the fire exit and sets off all the alarms. Exterior, London College of Fashion Street stay. Ellie runs into a busy Regent Street. She stops at the railing and hyperventilates. Her eyes dart around widely. She sees Jack among a crowd of shadow men outside Oxford Circus Tube. He glares back at her. She looks across the street, sees a bloody Sandie standing among the bustling shoppers. No one else seems to see these haunting voids. Ellie runs, disappearing into Carnaby Street. Exterior streets of Soho continuous. Ellie sprints through a maze of alleys and side streets. Seeing a shadow man at every turn, they get closer and closer, forcing her in random directions so she doesn't know their blank features are a nightmarish vacancy. Her passage through the streets is dizzying. Modern day London now as terrifying as the 60s nights. She runs down an alley by a pub. The men outside are all staring at her. As she passes a lamppost in a blur, they all become menacing wraith-like shadow men. Not looking where she's going, she slams right into Jack.
Where are you going?
She sprints off, looking back behind her. Jack is now the silver-haired gentleman, grinning. Just as she's becoming woozy, she finds herself in front of something tangible, something hopeful. The blue lamp outside a police station. Interior police interview room later. Ellie sits in a bare interview room with a stone-faced male detective and more open, approachable female officer. The male detective reads back from his notes flatly.
So, just so I've got this straight, you witnessed a murder last night and you believe this was a vision from the past. The murder of a young woman in the mid to late 1960s by a man who you believe to be her pimp.
Ellie nods.
You're an art student, correct?
Fashion.
Have you ever taken hallucinogens, acid, mushrooms, mescaline?
We're not going to get you in trouble if you have.
I know it sounds crazy, but I'm not on drugs. I didn't take anything.
You were at a party before? Could you have been slipped something? Perhaps someone bought you a drink?
Ellie thinks, Jocasta. Those cocktails. She sinks. As she tries to recover, Ellie sounds a little manic.
No, it started before last night. When I was sober, I saw landmarks in my dreams, details of nightclubs, ones that I'd never been to before. And then I saw those details in real life. I saw the wallpaper in the 60s version of my room, and when I found that same wallpaper when I peeled off the plaster.
The detective stares at her. Okay.
Look, I know something bad happened to this girl because I have these visions and visions of the past, and I have been seeing them ever since I came to London. I keep seeing Sandie. That's the murdered girl's name.
The detective looks at the officer, trying to hold in a laugh. The officer ignores her, keeps her focus on Ellie.
Is there a history of schizophrenia, mental health issues in your family?
Ellie stares at the two cops. She sidesteps the question.
I know who the killer is. It's her boyfriend. I mean, her pimp, Jack. I've seen him in the present day.
The male detective glances at his colleague, noting it down.
You getting all this?
There's this man I've seen around Soho who follows me and who... Well, the first time I saw him outside one of those models places, he didn't take much notice of me, but he did suddenly take an interest in me when I changed my hairdo to the same style as the murdered girl, as Sandie's.
This hairdo.
Look! I scrolled too fast. My point is, I've seen Jack, I've seen the killer as an old man around Soho.
Can you narrow down around Soho?
He drinks at the Toucan.
Another agonizing pause.
Have you only been here a short time?
A few weeks.
London can be a lot. Maybe it would help if you spoke with someone?
Look, please, just listen to me.
Ellie goes beetroot red. Aware of how ridiculous it sounds out loud, she looks ill. Interior police station toilet minutes later, Ellie throws up in the bathroom.
Blech.
We are listening, Miss Turner. Try to stay calm.
Blech. She looks in the mirror. Her skin is beyond pale, spectral white.
Sorry, I didn't commit to the puke. What do I need to do to convince you that I'm not crazy?
We don't think you are. We just think you need a bit of help to settle in. A support system.
She looks older, worn. Like Sandie in her dreams, this life is taking its toll. Exterior college library day. Ellie strides towards the entrance of the communal college library.
You did the right thing. Please hear that, okay? I will look into Sandie's murder. If you have any contact details, so if anything comes up, I'll be in touch.
Interior college library dusk. Ellie strides into the enormous communal college library. The central atrium area is full of students of all types, quietly reading and working.
Though I will say, in such cases, especially this old, it's hard without something concrete to go on. Even a last name.
Ellie heads into the depths of the building, a warren of narrow aisles and quieter areas. She finds a research department that bursts with books, folders, and files. An aging male student mans the information desk. Ellie flashes her student ID at him.
I want to look up murdered women and missing persons in the central London area from 1960 to 1969.
The info desk worker takes a second look at her ID.
Aren't you a fashion student?
Yeah, it's research.
You doing some cool fashion shoot based on infamous murder sites or something?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That actually kind of would be cool. Interior library, microfiche section later. Newspaper articles flash up. The headlines read, Cabman barmaid stabbed, dies. Police woman shot near Scrubs. Boxer appears in court for waitress murder. Ellie is totally lost in these endless vintage articles when a hand touches her shoulder. A voice whispers. Ellie jumps. Fuck! It's just John standing right there.
Jesus! Good. Same reaction. Why whisper like that?
Oh, different whispering voice, my bad. It's a library?
Right.
Have your stuff. You ran out, left your bag.
John places her bag on the floor next to her. He has folded her white Macintosh over it, and her scissors peek out of the bag at her. Ellie looks bewildered at his presence.
Everyone's here.
Ellie looks over into the atrium. She can now see other students from the course boning up on the coursework.
Listen, about what happened last night.
The tired, unraveled Ellie doesn't know how to answer.
I mean, if I did something wrong.
You didn't. It's not about you.
What is it, Elle?
John is quiet. She looks down at the huge pile of crime files and folders around her. John picks up a folder from the pile and looks at the spine. Central London Crime, 1965.
You'll think I sound crazy.
Talk to me.
Ellie takes a breath. Even though they're very alone in this maze-like wing of the library, she whispers quietly.
Last night I saw something in the bedroom from the past.
John takes it all in slowly.
Fuck, I do sound crazy.
No, what did you see?
Ellie thinks she sees flashes of the murder, the blade, Sandie crying out for help.
A girl was stabbed. There's a girl who used to live in my room, Sandie. The guy who killed her is still out there, so I'm looking for murdered women or missing persons from the 60s to try and find out her name. I have to find out who she was. If I don't, I'm going to lose my mind. Maybe I already have.
John looks at the microfiche she's using and the grim headlines about Soho disappearances.
Feel free to run a mile.
Listen, my auntie believes in all sorts of weird shit. So you just tell me how I can help.
Well, I guess you could get the next year of boxes, 1966.
John looks at the huge pile of folders again.
Damn. It's just 1 year.
London is a bad place.
Interior library, microfiche section. A few moments later, Ellie is alone again in the microfiche. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. We observed her from a distance, dwarfed by the tall shelves of the long aisles. She flicks through the microfiche and finds this headline: Father of 2 missing, presumed dead after Mayfair party. She peers at the screen and then her phone goes off. She quickly silences it and the caller is Peggy. Ellie pulls a face. Not now. As Ellie concentrates on the screen again, unseen to her, we can see a hideous, lurking silhouette appear in the distance, a shadow man stalking slowly down the empty aisle. Another headline: York's factory owner missing for 2 weeks. Another shadow man appears in the aisle, standing closer. Another headline: Teacher disappears after Soho night. Another shadow man appears behind Ellie, even closer. Ellie shuttles through the several other similar headlines, never noticing the growing ranks of shadow men until a dark, shadowy hand touches her shoulder.
That was quick.
Ellie turns. A shadow man looms over her. Fuck. She bolts out of the chair, turns to look up the aisle. There's 11 shadow men advancing upon her. John is nowhere to be seen. No other students that are. She grabs her bag from the floor and flees, sprinting down the aisle. She races through the maze of aisles, a shadow man right behind her. She fumbles with her bag, taking out the scissors, but dropping the bag and the Macintosh on the floor. As she races, she sees shadow men in the next aisles advancing towards her, converging on her. Every other aisle, however, alternates with male student or library worker. They look over at Eloise with concern. This dizzying zoetrope of shadow men and real men climaxes as slam. She careens into a 6-foot-tall shadow man, his arms grabbing at her. Ellie falls back and runs into another direction. Behind her, we briefly see the info desk worker where the shadow man just was. She runs down another aisle, but is blocked by shadow men at every turn. They seem to blink on and off with the lights.
Fuck you!
She runs back out the way she came. Behind her, we see male students where she just seen shadow men and charges at the solitary shadow man with the scissors. The shadow man turns at the last moment, but just as Ellie stabs towards his face, John catches Ellie's stabbing arm and stops the scissors from plunging directly into Jocasta's face. There is no shadow man, only a manic Ellie. John gripping her arm and completely freaked out Jocasta. Ellie is losing it. Jocasta is about to. Only John is calm.
It's okay.
It's not fucking okay. What in the actual fuck?
Jocasta backs off in shock, then runs to get security.
Stay here.
John takes off after her, removing the scissors from Ellie.
Security!
Ellie pants, terrified, adrenaline still surging. Jocasta runs through the atrium, shouting for security. John runs after her. Students stand up in the library, curious. Embarrassed, Ellie walks fast in the other direction, scooping up her dropped bag and Macintosh as she does. Ellie puts on her coat as she makes for the exit stairwell, but is then distracted by something out the window. Sandie, walking through the campus ground, a vision in long white Macintosh with her blonde burdette. She walks past other students, but they seem not to notice her, nor she them. Ellie instinctively walks after her in a trance-like state. Interior, exterior, library, lobby, continuous. Ellie runs out after Sandie as John and Jocasta are in a heated discussion with a confused security guard. Jocasta sees Ellie sprinting for the door.
That's her. Total fucking lunatic. Miss, come back here, please.
Too late. Ellie's gone out into the night. Exterior, the streets of Soho night. The streets of Soho are dark and blurry. The world shifts and undulates under the manic Ellie as she chases wisps of Sandie's blonde hair or flashes of her white Macintosh through the avenues of the side streets. It's raining now, a light mist that makes the neon lights bleed and reflect gaudily off the wet tarmac. Ellie snakes after Sandie in the dark alleys. Time and reality have lost all meaning to her now. The 1960s cascades into the present day. Street signs seem to be from the 50 years ago. People on the streets are not dressed in modern fashions. Ellie runs down a red-lit alley. She stops when she sees in the neon-lit window 2 prostitutes staring back at her from a red-lit bedroom. As she stares at herself, she hears,
Oi!
Ellie looks down. Jack is standing in the now 1960s alley surrounded by punters and streetwalkers. He sneers at Ellie.
Where do you think you're going?
Ellie looks in the other direction and sees Sandie walking through a tunnel of shadow men. They turn to lurch towards Ellie.
You think you could just walk away?
Approaching from all angles, appearing from the dark corners of the street with their hands out, trying to grab her. Ellie starts to run, pushing them aside, barging through. One whispers. A shadowy hand pulls on Ellie's belt buckle of her jacket, pulling her back into the seething dark mass of hands and groaning men. Ellie angrily pushes back at them.
Leave me alone!
She pushes one to the ground, turns, runs for her life. Ellie swings into the other alley, gaining on Sandie, but behind her, she still hears.
Come back here, slut.
Ellie turns to see Jack striding after her, shadow men flanking him like a black sea of punters.
Get back here, you whore.
Ellie runs, catches up to Sandie, puts her hand on her shoulder once more, but then Sandie spins around angrily, looking right through Ellie, her face a mask of rage.
Leave me alone.
Sandie pushes at Ellie and connects with her shoulder. As Sandie's angry voice echoes, Ellie falls backwards. She hits the glistening wet of the tarmac, landing firmly in Soho, present day. Reeling out, Ellie slowly stands to find no Sandie. She turns behind her. She cannot see the shadow men. She cannot see Jack. But across the street, glimpsed behind the traffic that zooms past, she can see a familiar figure, the silver-haired gentleman. He's ambling down the street in exactly the same spot she last saw Jack. She watches him stroll along, then shouts,
Jack? Jack!
Ellie is drowned out by the busy traffic. The silver-haired gentleman does not hear her and disappears around the corner. Ellie, soaked through and disoriented, stalks after him, rushes round the bend, and he's gone. She finds herself outside of the Toucan. She strides in, determined, steely. Exterior of the Toucan night, Ellie heads towards the door. The bartender smokes outside.
Where the hell have you been? Been covering for you downstairs for the last hour. Fuck's sake.
She doesn't even look at him as she crosses the threshold. Interior, the Toucan continuous. An exasperated Carol is dealing with a crowd of customers.
Ellie, get down in the basement, girl. You've got a customer.
Of course she does. Ellie descends the stairs onto Interior, the Toucan basement continuous. Song Eloise by Barry Ryan. Ellie enters to see the silver-haired gentleman sitting on his usual stool at the bar. He has an air conducting the bomb-tastic intro to the song, which emanates from the jukebox. Before Ellie walks into the field of vision, she starts her iPhone recording. She then slips behind the bar. When he spots her, a huge grin splits his face.
And here she is.
The silver-haired gentleman seems a little merry. Ellie's face is stone, utterly determined.
Your siren song is playing. I just wanted to put this on the jukebox, and you and I behold you appear. Carol was worried about you, thought you'd gone missing. I told her no one ever really disappears. They're always around somewhere.
I'm right here.
Ellie hides the iPhone behind the bar. She's on edge.
Aren't you just... I'll have a pint of numbers, love.
She takes a
pint?
glass.
Sorry.
I'm an old man, love.
She takes a glass and begins to pour.
You should know, I hear you were quite the ladies' man.
Were? How dare you? Still am. You never lose it.
You knew a lot of the girls around here.
A lot of them. I knew all of them.
Sandie?
Who didn't know Sandie?
Ellie tenses up. He notices, enjoys it.
Louise, I'd love to please her. I love to care, but she's not there.
Ellie, hugely unnerved, tries to get it together.
Did I scare you?
No.
I knew all the girls liked to think I looked after them, had to keep them in order too. Mind, keep them in line. Sandie, she was special though. She didn't belong, though she was too good for it. She was probably right, to be honest, but at the end of the day, you all look the same on a slab.
I know what you did.
I've done a lot of things, Eloise. You're going to have to be more specific, love.
I know what you did to Sandie.
Do you know?
I saw her. I see her. I know what happened.
Well, whatever happened to Sandie, she brought it on herself.
Ellie looks at him, shocked.
No one deserves that.
The silver-haired gentleman drops the smile and jabs a finger at her.
Listen, I know where you live, Eloise, and I don't know what you've seen or heard, but I can tell you Sandie ended up exactly where she wanted to be. Funny you mention her, though, because the first thing I did when I dragged myself back to this miserable smoke was look up her old bones, but turns out some people don't want to be found.
The silver-haired gentleman gets up from his stool and walks towards the exit.
You killed her?
You think I killed Sandie?
Ellie throws a pint glass to the ground, smashing it to pieces.
I know you did.
The silver-haired gentleman laughs at this.
Ha! I think you'll find Alex killed Sandie.
He then walks towards the exit and the outdoor steps to the street. Ellie follows, not sure how to stop him.
Come back.
Nah, I've had enough of this line of questioning. You think she was an angel, but don't be fooled.
The silver-haired gentleman walks up the stairs. Ellie grabs her iPhone and runs after him, shouting.
I'm recording this. You won't get away with it. Jesus, Karen.
So what? I do what I like in this manner.
The silver-haired gentleman exits into a busy street. Exterior, the toucan continuous. Ellie chases him as he crosses the street.
The police know. I told them.
The silver-haired gentleman angrily turns to tower over her.
Like I give a flying fuck.
Wait!
He backs away, his face furious as he spits at Ellie.
When you see Alex in whatever little hell she's currently in, you can tell her I said hello.
Boom! A black taxi knocks the silver-haired gentleman flying. Crack! His old body crumples sickeningly as he flies over the bonnet and crushes brutally to the floor. Ellie lets out a silent scream, covers her face with her hands. She drops her iPhone to the floor. It shatters. Bystanders on the street turn and gasp. The taxi driver brakes hard and gets out. He sees the corpse of the silver-haired gentleman in the gutter, a grimace on his bloody face.
Oh my God.
Ellie unravels. The sound of the commotion almost drown in interior whine as hysteria takes hold on the street. Behind, the bartender and Carol run out to the grim scene.
Jesus, what happened, Ellie?
Ellie stares at the bartender blankly. A crowd has started to gather. Carol recoils in shock.
He just stepped out. I wasn't expecting it.
Oh, Lindsey, you poor bastard. Call an ambulance. Pet, now.
The bartender immediately dials 999 on his phone.
Hey, tell them Lindsey used to be police. That'll make him hurry.
Ellie, still in a daze, looks at Carol.
Lindsey?
Yeah, he was ex-vice. He was a copper in Soho for years and years. And now look at him, laying there in the gutter.
Ellie is very confused by this conversation.
His name's not Jack?
Jack? No, love. That's Lindsey.
Ellie's face pales. She turns and walks away as she realizes who Lindsey is. Punter 5. She is haunted by his words.
Get out while you can, girl. Get out. I'd get out while you can, girl. I'd get out while you can, girl.
Ellie unravels as she walks away from the toucan.
Ellie!
Into your phone box, night blue flashing lights, an ambulance races along the street.
I let you down. I've let Mum down.
The ambulance streaks past Ellie in the red phone box. She holds the receiver.
You haven't let anyone down. You never could.
Ellie is too distraught to answer. She starts crying.
Eloise? Eloise, my love, I don't know what's happened, but it's okay to come home. You haven't failed anyone.
Okay.
I'll come over and get you first thing tomorrow.
I can't stay another night.
I'll get someone to drive me now.
Ellie thinks. She looks back towards the commotion at the toucan and sees something that we cannot.
No, I have someone who can help. I'll call you.
We see what she sees. John running away from the toucan, looking for Ellie, panicked by the lights of the emergency vehicles.
Eloise? Ellie?
Interior Soho Street. Moments later, Ellie races after John. He sees her, relief on his face.
Oh, thank God. I saw flashing lights and I thought,
I need to get out of here.
I'll take you back to your place.
No, I want to go home. Home. I have to get out of London. Can you help me get to the train station?
Forget the train, I'll drive you.
Through her pain and tears, Ellie looks surprised.
You have a car?
Interior, exterior, John's car, apartment building later. John's car, dented 2002 Corsa, pulls up outside 8 Gouge Place, which looms ominously in the night. Ellie looks up to her bedroom window with trepidation.
Okay, I have to go in there and get my things as quickly as I can and then never see that fucking room again.
Do you want me to come up and help?
You probably shouldn't. Miss Collins will kill you if she sees you again. Fuck, I have to speak to her too.
Why do you have to speak to her?
Ellie puts her head in her hands, exasperated.
I don't want to disappear in the night on her. I promised I wouldn't be that person.
Okay.
Maybe if I plead, she might give me some of my deposit back. Fuck!
Ellie gathers herself and gets out of John's car. She looks up at her window, takes a deep breath.
If I'm not out in 15 minutes, maybe come check on me?
Okay.
Ellie disappears inside. Interior corridor, apartment building night. Keeping an eye on the stairs in her room, Ellie walks alone to Miss Collins' door, tentatively knocks on it. We can hear music playing inside.
Miss Collins? It's Ellie.
Just coming, dearie.
Miss Collins unbolts her door to see Ellie's anxious face.
You look like you've had a fright.
I need your help.
Just you, is it?
Yeah.
I'll get the kettle on. Come in.
Ellie enters and Miss Collins peers into the hallway. Interior ground floor flat continuous song, Anyone Who Had a Heart by Cecilia Black. This is not the first time Ellie has been in Miss Collins' flat since she moved in. An old vinyl player she didn't previously notice plays Cecilia Black. There's an old record box open too.
Your music upstairs got me breaking out my old records.
Ellie sits as Miss Collins boils the kettle. She calls out.
Oh, I picked up a letter for you by mistake. It's in that pile.
Ellie sees a pile of posts on the coffee table and shuffles through the letters addressed to Miss Alexandra Collins until she finds one letter addressed to her. She puts Miss Collins' post back and notices a lit cigarette on the ashtray. Miss Collins returns with a cup of tea.
Don't judge me on the cigarettes. All that hoo-ha the other night got me going again.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've always been on the edge.
Miss Collins brings the cup of tea over and sits opposite Ellie. She takes a cigarette from the ashtray and draws.
So you have something you want to talk about?
Ellie gathers herself.
Miss Collins, I'm so sorry to do this, and I really didn't want to be this person, but I'm leaving tonight.
Are you now?
I'm not having a good time here, and I need to go back home, and I promise I will pay for the mirror, but I really need some of my deposit. I've got nothing.
Slow down.
I don't want to beg, but this has been a disaster.
Slow down. Hush. Drink your tea.
Ellie does so and sips at her tea. Miss Collins smiles.
You spoke to the police, didn't you? About the room upstairs?
Yeah.
Even though Miss Collins is smiling, Ellie can't meet her eye and just sips her tea again.
Nice police lady came around asking questions about you, about your well-being. Welfare check, she called it. It had me worried. You'd been saying a girl died up there.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's funny because There is some truth to it.
Ellie looks up at Miss Collins, who has a smile on her face.
I'd never thought about it that way until you brought it up. But a girl did die up there, I suppose.
Ellie's eyes widen and Miss Collins continues at the same calm, unnervy, yet cheery tone.
The young me that came into this big city.
Ellie's eyes flick to the pile of posts and the names Miss Alexandra Collins. She whispers to herself.
Sandie?
Ellie is reeling at this. Miss Collins smiles darkly and takes a drag of her cigarette.
I had hopes and dreams like you did. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to perform, to act. Being a whore is a bit like being an actress, I suppose. You have to pretend you're someone else, someone that's not you. I'd pretend I was somewhere else, that this wasn't happening to me, trying to forget about all those men, their faces. I'd blank them out. I had to make like they were nothing.
Off Ellie's face, we see a quick flash cut montage of the Punters approaching Sandie's bed lavishly. They are human once more, but their faces are still shrouded in shadow.
So yeah, you could say that Sandie died up there. She died in that room 100 times.
Miss Collins traces a finger along her right palm, showing an old scar that runs along it, a deep, nasty wound.
And then one night, the man who'd put me here, the man who put me to work, the man who stole my dream, I put a knife to him 100 times.
A flash cut montage of Jack menacing Sandie in her bed with a knife. When he goes to stab her, she grabs the blade, wrestles it away from him, and pushes the knife back into Jack's throat. Blood splashes on her face. She then stabs him again and again from under him. What Ellie saw was not Jack stabbing Sandie. It was the exact opposite. Back in the room, Miss Collins still smiles unnervingly.
And I can tell you what, Ellie. I can call you Ellie, can't I?
Yes.
It felt right, Ellie. So many of those bastards who came ringing my bell came creeping up my stairs. They sent me to my hell. So I sent them to theirs.
Quick flash cut montage of Sandie slashing the throats of a succession of sleazy Punters. We see flashes of their real faces, now rendered in vivid flesh, scared and shocked. Back to Ellie, realization dawning.
The papers called them missing persons. As far as I'm concerned, they were already lost. So people don't know where they are. I say they didn't know who they were. I did everyone a favor.
Quick flash cut montage. We see the now dead Punters buried in dark wall spaces and under floorboards.
I wasn't going to be used anymore. Wasn't going to let this city break me.
I'm so sorry.
Why? It's not your fault.
I mean, I understand. I know what you've been through.
Miss Collins' smile becomes a sneer.
Oh, do you?
I didn't mean to get you in trouble with the police.
Oh, it's okay. They think you're mad. And it's not like you're going to tell anyone else.
Of course not. I would never.
No, I mean, I know you're not going to tell anyone else.
Miss Collins looks at the tea in Ellie's hand. Ellie follows her gaze, feeling woozy, drops the cup to the floor.
Don't worry. I'm not going to stab you like the others. I wouldn't do that to you.
Ellie clutches the armrest of her seat. Her head reels.
You're going to go to sleep, and they'll just say you topped yourself because you knew everyone thinks you were going to, and to do that anyway. They're all very concerned about you. Bless.
Ellie feels stomach pains.
So just get comfy and you can doze off listening to some of your nice music.
No.
Ellie croaks, her full voice suddenly gone.
Shh, you take it easy. No more excitement.
Ding dong. Someone's at the door. Miss Collins gets up. She opens the curtain to see John. He presses the doorbell a second time.
Oh, just you, is it, little liar?
Miss Collins grabs a knife from the kitchen on the way to the door. Ellie tries to get up and stop her.
No!
Miss Collins turns and slaps Ellie hard, knocking her to the ground. Her head cracks to the floor. Her eyes glaze.
Just coming, dearie.
Miss Collins disappears into the hallway. Ellie tries to get up, but the world spins around her. She grasps for purchase. Her hands find the tabletop. She heaves herself up and pushes towards the door, bumping the table on the way, knocking the ashtray and Miss Collins' lit cigarette into the record box. Interior hallway and stairs continuous. Miss Collins opened the door a crack to talk to John.
What is it?
I'm here to see Ellie.
Oh, she's upstairs. Come on in.
Ellie comes into the hallway just as Miss Collins lets John in. Ellie, in real pain, is about to scream. John sees Ellie's face, knows something is wrong.
Run!
Miss Collins stabs John in the stomach. He falls.
No!
Miss Collins swings around to Ellie with the knife.
Will you keep it down, screaming loud enough to wake the bloody dead?
Slash. Miss Collins swipes at Ellie, who catches her hand with the blade. Ellie reels from the deep cup in her palm and falls backward into the stairs, smacking her head on the step. She screams in pain and looks up. Concussed and bleeding, she then sees interior dreamscape, hallway and stairs continuous. Song, You're My World by Cecilia Black. This section cross-cuts between the real struggle of Ellie trying to crawl back up the stairs away from the knife-wielding Miss Collins and a dreamscape version of the same, the point of view of a concussed and drugged Ellie imagining the same events but in the fantasy version of a deserted after-hours cafe to Paris. In this timeline, Ellie, in full Sandie evening dress, tries to escape a knife-wielding young Sandie, who is also resplendent in a dazzling gown. As young Sandie approaches, she is lip-syncing Cecilia Black. We see the following on the two timelines. Ellie scrambling upstairs while backwards. Sandie, Miss Collins, advancing on her, knife in hand. In the dreamscape, the dimension of the room and the stairs are elastic. The staircase seems to be infinite and impossible to reach the top. In the real world, Ellie struggles up the stairs. Behind Miss Collins, fire and smoke spill out of Miss Collins' room, smothering John.
Fire! Fire!
We cross-cut back and forth until Miss Collins gets closer. Ellie kicks her in the shin. She struggles to get up.
I'll get you. I'll kill you.
Ellie rounds into the landing and the world spins. She keels over, her bleeding hand still gripping the banister, trying to stay up. A wave of nausea hits her. She throws up, then stumbles out onward. Interior bedroom, dreamscape bedroom continuous. Ellie gets inside her bedroom and locks the door behind her. Smoke is already beginning to rise up through the floor. She looks over and sees the landline on the other side of the room on her bedside table. Ellie runs to the landline, but then a shadowy arm bursts through the floorboards and grabs her ankle. She falls to the floor hard, face first. Another shadowy arm bursts through another. Soon, the floor is a sea of pitch black arms rising and clawing at her. The line between the real room and the dreamscape starts to blur into one and the same as Ellie becomes ensnared in the sea of limbs. The phone suddenly a long way away. The head of the shadow man bursts through the floor. We hear them groaning once more. Behind her, we see the door handle move, shake. Ellie wrenches herself free of the shadowy arms that have sprouted all over, but then the walls start to crack. She looks in horror as shadow men break out of the wallpaper and plaster in the wall all around Ellie. The shadow men emerge from the tombs of the floor and walls. She is surrounded and overwhelmed, struggling to stay conscious with the poison in her blood. The smoke in the air behind her, we hear the door start to unlock.
Eloise.
Eloise fights off the hordes of shadow men who claw at her as she claws onto the bed and reaches for the phone. Shadowy limbs grab at her body as she grabs for the phone. She is very close to reaching the receiver when a tall shadow man bursts out of the floor on the other side of the bed by the phone. He rises up and stares at Ellie. Ellie freezes in fear as the tall shadow man reaches for the phone, picks up the receiver, and holds it out to Ellie. Ellie can start to make out the face of the tall shadow man. It's one of the punters from earlier, and he looks scared. Ellie looks to the grotesque shadow man at the foot of her bed, and of course, they all start groaning for help. The tall shadow man's face twists into a snarl. He whispers, "Kill her." The shadow men at the foot of the bed repeat the mantra, more of an instruction than a plea.
Kill her. Kill her.
Save us. Kill her.
Eloise slowly but empathetically shakes her head.
No.
Suddenly, the door swings open and Miss Collins walks in, knife aloft, advancing on Ellie. This is the first time she's stepped in the room in any of the present day scenes. The shadow men stop crawling at Ellie and start cowering in the presence of Miss Collins. Miss Collins looks at the shadow men and stops dead, her expression changing from steely to horror. As the expression changes on Miss Collins' face, we no longer see the shadow men anymore. We now see the Punters she murdered all those years ago. They are no longer blanked out. They are as they appeared when she killed them. And all around Ellie in this twisted tabloid are the 1960s versions of the Punters that Miss Collins killed, trapped in the moment of their death, scared, cowering, bleeding from their necks and faces. We recognize the Punters from the dream in the mirrored disc cloth. Their faces are drained of nearly all color. The only remaining shade is the ghastly red of their injuries. Both the dead Punters and Ellie recoil in fear as they wait to see what Miss Collins will do next. Their screams build as Miss Collins' horror grows. We move into Miss Collins' face and see in the reflection of her eyeglasses, Jack.
With you to the end, Sandie.
We now see what Miss Collins sees, the array of all the pathetic men she killed, and in the middle of them, a sneering Jack dressed in the clothes he was murdered in.
You were the one who wanted all this.
Ellie lies on the bed, frozen in horror as Jack approaches Miss Collins with an evil grin.
More than anything, you said.
Jack raises his hand to strike Miss Collins. She flinches in pain and the world returns to normal. Smoke is pissing up the stairway, black and acrid, thick as fabric. It swirls and catches the neon lights from outside. Eloise looks on as Miss Collins stands in the room, shocked, struck. In the full-length mirror behind her, she also sees Sandie. Young, innocent, and full of hope, Ellie watches both the older Miss Collins and the ghost of her younger self, the person she lost. A long beat, it drips with Miss Collins' sadness and regret. The bedroom is starting to burn.
I didn't.
Miss Collins drops her knife to her side, shakes her head. Sirens start to sound in the distance. Miss Collins knows there's no way out. She looks to Eloise.
I didn't want any of this.
I know, I saw.
They deserved it.
I know.
The sirens are getting louder.
I'm not
I'm
going,
not
to
going
prison.
to prison. I've been in one all my life.
Miss Collins raises the knife once more, but moves to slash her own throat.
No!
Ellie jumps up and runs to Miss Collins as she drags the blade across her throat. We see the knife cut her flesh. As Eloise reaches her and grips the blade, it cuts into her palm but doesn't reach Miss Collins' throat. As she pushes the blade away from Miss Collins' neck, we now suddenly see Ellie embrace young Sandie. She wrestles the blade away from her throat and hurls it across the room. Young Sandie is slightly bleeding from the neck. Ellie embraces her and cries as the blood spreads over her dress.
Please.
Ellie looks young Sandie in the face.
You don't have to do this. You can live. Please live.
You have to let go.
Young Sandie's expression turns to anger. She pushes Ellie away from her, her face wrought with anguish.
Leave!
Sandie, bleeding, backs away from Ellie. The fire is now out of control. Flames lick up the walls.
No!
Eloise runs forward to grab her back from the fire, but she pushes back defiantly.
You can't save me.
Ellie understands. She sees that the flames are rising and the smoke is thickening rapidly. The photo of her mom on the side table is burning up. Now, in front of her once more is Miss Collins.
Save yourself. Save the boy. Go.
She pushes Eloise towards the door. She runs out of the room, coughing violently. Before she runs downstairs, Ellie looks back to the room to see Miss Collins now sitting down on the bed, much like Ellie did the first night she moved in. It's a serene image in the middle of a raging inferno. The smoke thickens. Miss Collins disappears in it. Interior hallway and stairs continuous. Ellie battles through the smoke and hobbles down the stairs towards John, who still lies in a heap on the floor. As Ellie is about to reach the fallen John, she trips down the last few steps and lands next to him on the ground. The flames and smoke are now very intense. John is out cold and bleeding heavily. Ellie crawls over to shake him awake. She cries,
John! John, get up!
John doesn't answer, and there's a violent cracking sound. A shaft of light lands on Ellie's face. She looks up to see a fireman axing the door down, coming to save them. Blue lights surround the fireman as he fills the frame. Exterior apartment building moments later. Fire engines and ambulances fill the street outside the apartment building, which is now completely engulfed in flame. Emergency workers race to extinguish the blaze, while other residents watch the now funeral pyre of the building glow. In the middle of the street on stretchers are Ellie and John. She's given oxygen as John is lifted into the ambulance. We see an EMT rip open John's hoodie and attend to his wounds. Ellie's stretcher is then carried into her own ambulance. As she's lifted, we see the image of the whole house on fire. Slam! The door closes and her ambulance starts moving. We see the blue flashing lights on her face. Ellie begins to drift into unconsciousness. Blue flashing lights. Blue flashing lights. As Ellie passes out, she imagines the record player in her bedroom melting from the heat of the fire, burning up, destroyed forever in the flames. She imagines Sandie sitting on the bed in the raging inferno. Ellie then sees one last image as she slips into blackness. On black, interior Miss Collins' living room night. Everything is on fire. The photograph on the wall of the young Sandie looks out from the flames. We then match cut as interior warehouse night. A rectangle photograph of Sandie becomes a door frame in a silhouette reminiscent of her opening scene. Music starts, a dance remix of Pentula's Clark's Downtown, blasting through the large cavernous space. A figure appears in the doorway, an outline of Sandie, dressed as she was when we first met her in Café de Paris. A figure stalks towards us. We feel strip lights blink on and camera flash behind her.
Now, first year student, Eloise Turner.
An entire audience of shadowy people bursts into applause. The lights come up and we are looking at the happy audience for a fashion show. Peggy and John are right in the middle, clapping the hardest. From behind the mirrored wall, 3 young models strut down the catwalk wearing designs that are the natural evolution of Ellie's college work. The first is the dress inspired by Sandie. The second and third are completely modern. We see Ellie in the wings watching her work parade around. She beams proudly. There's a loud applause as the models loop back to the backstage area. A voice beams over the PA.
Eloise Turner.
There's now thunderous applause as Ellie walks out on stage with her models, surrounded by her designs. Peggy and John stand to clap as she soaks up this moment of triumph. The models file off stage and Ellie follows them. Interior backstage continuous. A proud Miss Tobin is waiting in the wings. She wraps Ellie in a celebratory hug.
I knew you could do this, even after everything you've gone through. You're such a star, Ellie.
Ellie then follows her models back to the staging area. Nearby, Cami and Lara are prepping their own models. Lara and Cami run over to Ellie.
Oh, that was so incredible. You really are so brave.
So brave. You're such an inspiration. Ellie hugs both of them. She moves on, seeing Ashley and Jocasta too. Ashley applauds Ellie. Jocasta gives her a colder glance. Ellie totally brushes Jocasta off and moves towards her area, beaming with satisfaction. As she does, she catches her reflection in a large mirror, but it's not just her reflection in the mirror. When we look again, we see behind her once more her mom. Watching on, a mixture of pride and love, Ellie stares at her warm, happy.
There she is, my big-time fashion designer.
Peggy and John move towards Ellie. John has a cane and is limping. Ellie walks away from the mirror to meet them.
It's amazing. You're amazing.
Ellie kisses him.
I'm just so happy I was here to see it.
I'm glad I'm here to see it too.
Peggy clutches Eloise's hand.
And you don't need me to say this, but your mom would have been proud of you too.
Ellie smiles to herself.
I know she is.
Ellie turns back to the mirror, but in the reflection is not her mom. It's young Sandie, dressed as we first saw her. Perfect. Ellie starts walking away from Peggy and John and towards the mirror, drawn to it. Ellie and Sandie are inches apart. Blue flashing lights echo around them both. Sandie smiles. Ellie smiles. They tap the glass together. Cut to credits. End credits song, Last Night in Soho by Dave D. Dazzy, Beaky, Mick, and Titch.
Well, thank you very much for joining us for this spooky, spooky ghost tale. We'll catch you at the next one.